How's everyone doing today? Good. All right. So speakers, I have to remind you, lean into the microphone and speak because they are recording so that it will pick you up. So you can hear me good? All right, perfect. I ask that everyone turn off their cell phone, not turn off, just mute or silence your cell phone. So I'm Billy Poe, City Manager for Zephyrhills. Thank you very much for coming out today for this great program that Chamber has put together for us. We have some great speakers. I think you'll learn a lot about the city, what we do, healthcare, different amenities that are provided throughout the city. We'll have Senator Burgess here to talk about what's going on at the state level. I do have to put in one plug before we get started. I apologize, I'm going off script a little bit. The city has invested in TextMyGov. And so if you're interested in getting updates on things that are going on in the city, be able to participate in surveys, notifications about events that are going on, if you text hi to 91896, you can be included and get those updates. Kevin, our PIO, has a lot of these little bookmarks and has all the information on that you would need to register. Yep, I'm sorry, this is Kevin here. A little housekeeping. Bathrooms are out the double doors here, straight back to your right. There's food, beverages here to your left. So without further ado, I'd like to have the mayor come up to do the pledge and the invocation.
Father, we thank you this morning for this opportunity we have to come together as a community, and we thank you so much for all those who have traveled from distances. We thank you for their protection. We pray that you'll take everyone home safely at the end of this week. Father, we thank you for the meeting and the good sharing that we'll have and the opportunity we'll have to learn from each other and how we can promote our community and be a better representative of our people. After all, Father, it is our people we serve here in this community. We thank you for all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, our first speaker today is Amanda Maggard with Advent Health. Amanda is the president and CEO for Advent Health, Zephyrhills and Dade City. She serves as I just read that. In this role, Amanda oversees strategic direction and operational performance for the two hospitals. Amanda has nearly 20 years of healthcare experience with Advent Health. Her background includes experience in hospital operations, organizational development, patient experience, corporate training, marketing, and fundraising. Amanda is passionate about crafting a mission-driven culture and pursuing excellence in patient care. Amanda is a fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executives, a certified senior professional in human resources, and a 6 Sigma Green Belt. She received undergraduate degrees in journalism and marketing from Union College in Lincoln, Nebraska, and a master's of business administration from Webster University. In 2015, she was named by the Orlando Business Journal as one of Central Florida's 40 under 40. Amanda and her husband, Michael, have 2 sons, Griffin and Landry. Please help me welcome Amanda.
Well, good morning, everyone. I got a little taste of that Union College in Lincoln, Nebraska this morning with the cool weather. Just kidding. It would be -20, I think, if it were really in Lincoln, Nebraska. So great to see everybody this morning. It's a pleasure to be here and be a supporter of this event. I am so excited about all the growth and things I'm seeing happening here in the Zephyrhills community. So a little bit more about Advent Health. You can see our pictures here of our Zephyrhills campus in Dade City as well. You'll move to the next one for me. Do you have a clicker by chance, or should I just keep? Okay, sounds good. Okay, sounds great. So Advent Health's mission is to extend the healing ministry of Christ. You can see more there on our vision statement and our values, our quality and service excellence, community well-being, our ethical standards, stewardship, and inclusiveness as well. So Advent Health, if you're not familiar, we are one of the largest not-for-profit faith-based healthcare systems in the country. We have approximately 50 hospitals around the country in 9 states. We also have a post-acute care network. We have 2 long-term care facilities here in the Zephyrhills community and a physician network as well. Most of our hospitals are here in Florida. About half of our hospitals are here in the state of Florida, but we are a large organization encompassing about 9 states. Here in the East Pasco community, we have 2 hospitals that we really partner together and work as one team. Advent Health Zephyrhills and Advent Health Dade City, which we acquired in 2018. We have one executive team and really one leadership team that leads both of these facilities so we can collaborate and work closely together to serve this community. You can see there are pictures of our executive team. A little bit more about Zephyrhills. Hopefully you can see there the list of services. It may be a little small, but we have approximately 150 beds. A number of years ago, about 5 years ago, we renovated our emergency department to be able to better care for this community. In Dade City, we have a number of services as well, 120 beds, including 45 beds that serve as a skilled nursing unit, offering more of that rehab for patients that are with us from 2 to 4 weeks. So a number of services that we offer in the community. We've been actively working to build and grow our medical staff. Pictured here is the number of the providers that have joined us within the last 2 years, including both primary care. We actually have 2 new primary care physicians that have started with us within the past 60 days. One that's located here in Zephyrhills in our community care practice, which is right on the corner across from the hospital and our wellness center. And then we have another primary care physician that has started with us in our San Antonio location. So we're actively working to grow that network because we have a large and growing community. We've also brought in additional specialists into our community, including a new spine physician, Dr. Soleil, who's located right down the hill from the hospital, right next to the Starbucks building. We have additional orthopedic physician, colorectal surgery, urogyne, a number of other specialties that we're bringing in to help better serve this community. Can you go to the next? One of the things I'm very proud of with both of our campuses is the foundation of strong clinical excellence that we bring to this community. Our hospital in Dade City, we are a CMS 4-star rated hospital, which is our goal to be either a 4 or 5-star rated hospital for all of our facilities across Advent Health. We're also a Leapfrog A rated top general hospital. If you're not familiar with Leapfrog, it's a consumer rating organization. And being an A-rated top general hospital is really the best that we can be from a Leapfrog perspective. We can go to the next one. In Zephyrhills, again, I'm really proud. We have achieved a CMS 5-star rating, which is the best that we can be from a CMS star rating. That takes into account clinical quality as well as patient experience. And from a Leapfrog perspective, we're also a Leapfrog A-rated top general hospital. You can see here a number of our awards that we've received. Here in Zephyrhills, we're actually a top 250 best hospital as rated by Health Grades as well. And I wanted to share about a couple of the projects that we've been working on recently for both of our hospitals. One is surgical growth. So earlier this year, we opened up 2 new additional operating rooms here in our Zephyrhills Hospital to continue serving the community and being able to keep up with the growth and the need that we have for surgical cases. In Dade City, we have been renovating our pre and post-op space to provide a better patient experience as well as increase our capacity for surgical cases. And we're actually just getting ready to do a ribbon cutting for that project this week and starting to care for patients this month here in that space. We can go back one more, I'm sorry. We're also starting to renovate our critical care units in Zephyrhills. So our intensive care unit, our progressive care unit are the 2 units where we care for the most critical patients in our hospital. And I am thrilled that we're starting a renovation of those spaces. We actually started on that this past week. And so watch for more information on that renovation to be complete. We're looking for that to be completed sometime in January. I'm also really proud of the work that we're doing in the Simpson Breast Health Center. This is October, so I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Women's Healthcare Month and the importance of women in our lives getting screened for breast cancer. We are blessed to have this tremendous center right here in our community. They're in the top 1% of patient experience across the country. They do a fantastic job with the clinical quality and screenings and the experience for women in our community. We have some of the top rated equipment that you can find in mammography. So ladies, schedule your mammograms. Gentlemen, encourage all the women in your life who are 40 and older to go in and get screened. One of the unique things that we have is the ability for women to control the compression, which makes that for a better experience for the women going to the center. And go to the next. And that is all that I have. But happy to answer any questions if there are any. And if not, thank you for all of your support for us in this community. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Next up, we have Shane LeBlanc, the Public Works Director for the city of Zephyrhills. With 34 years of public works experience, Shane oversees 5 divisions within the Public Works Department: project management of capital improvements, to include new road construction, along with the construction of all city-owned buildings and related infrastructure. Born in St. Petersburg and a Zephyrhills High School graduate, go Bulldogs. Shane currently resides in Zephyrhills with his wife, Teresa. Shane is also a state certified building contractor, proud veteran of the United States Navy, and past president of the American Public Works Association West Coast branch. Shane LeBlanc.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to City Hall. The topic of my discussion today, I thought it might be interesting that 3 weeks ago, everybody just went through Hurricane Ian, and everybody in this room can relate to it being a stressful situation for everybody. First of all, my thoughts and prayers go out to the folks in Southwest Florida that really took the brunt of the storm. If you look at the slide, forecasting, thank goodness we have modern forecasting techniques, but the forecasting itself is kind of stressful. You watch the news every chance you get. You look at the spaghetti models. It's the European model, the GWF model, the cone of uncertainty. It's very stressful for citizens and then public employees alike that we have to prepare at the city. But we make preparations for the city very similar to what a homeowner would do. We have a plan, and we plan for the worst and pray for the best. So when we know we have a storm heading our way, we coordinate with Pasco County EOC, Mr. Oakley's here, and we partner with them. We're in direct contact with them all the time. And we establish a chain of command in the city along with the incident commander. So, of course, City Manager Poe, he's in charge, but as far as the incident goes, this past storm, Ian was the police chief, was the incident commander. So if you look at this slide, you look to the left, that's our above ground fuel farm that we have at our city maintenance facility. It's got 12,000 gallons of unleaded and 12,000 gallons of diesel. So prior to the storm, we fill up all of our vehicles, all of our generators, all of our emergency pumps, test everything, make sure it's ready to go. And then we make space in that tank for 7,500 gallon deliveries of diesel and unleaded, because 9 times out of 10, when we have an approaching storm, the port of Tampa closes down, and that's where we get our fuel from. So that fuel is the lifeline for the city to keep the city's critical infrastructure running during a storm event, because our contingency plan is to prepare for the electric to go out. So that fuel truck that you see on the right, we go around and we refuel generators. Most of our generators have about a 72-hour runtime. So there's been times in the past, like back in 2017, we lost power for about 4 days. So our generator capacity got to the point where we had to take that mobile truck out, fuel the generators. So without fuel, the city's wells, the city's lift stations, city hall, the police department, everything goes down without that critical fuel. So that's real critical to us. Next slide. We also make preparations for all of our equipment. Couple of examples there, sharpening up all of our chainsaws because we know we're going to use those. Our dump trucks are fueled, ready to go. And normally when we haul debris, we take the tailgates off the trucks so that they can dump out easier. We check all of our pumping stations, test everything, and have a plan to prepare for the worst. Every storm is different. We learn from every storm. The picture on the left, you can see we have an emergency generator staged at one of our pumping stations. Back in 2017, that pumping station went down because we lost power. So we retrofitted the pumping station to use a portable generator. So we had that portable generator in place a couple of days before the approaching storm. And then we coordinated with Pasco County and helped them out with a sandbag station at the Dairy Road Fire Station. So it's a coordinated effort between the city and the county. So working the storm. Everybody knows that this storm was a slow mover, which made it even more stressful upon everybody. So the night of the storm, we secured operations, except we had some strike force teams and some cut and clear teams ready to go, because that's our mission in Public Works, is to clear the roads so police vehicles and public safety vehicles can traverse the roads. So go back to that one if you don't mind. So when we woke up Thursday morning, I think it was, we were out doing our damage assessment at 6:30 a.m. It wasn't even light out. And if you look at those photos, those are actual photos from the storm where we had power lines down in 5 different locations at the same time. So we dispatched our crews out. We secured each site with personnel so nobody would get a hold of the energized line. We treat them all like they're energized, even if they're not. And then we have Duke come out, and Duke make sure that they're de-energized. We clear the road, and then Duke restores the power. So those are just 2 examples of that morning where we had 5 sites at one time. And of course, when those power lines are down, our residents' power's out, and then you have people start coming outside to see what's going on, and you know, God forbid somebody touches one of those energized lines. So we were on standby until Duke cleared the situation. So, a little bit of wind damage we had at Zephyr Park. We had some major tree limbs come down. You look at the one tree limb on the right, that was a pretty huge oak tree, probably Civil War era tree that we lost about half of the tree. Next slide. And then after the storm, of course, the worst part is the debris cleanup. So we started seeing piles develop on the side of the road in the city right away. So we coordinated with our PIO, Kevin, that's in the back of the room, and we put out a media blast to our residents and we used his text gov as well to put their piles of debris curbside, and then the city would come around and collect those. So if you look at those photos, it's a photo of a pile, and then one of our public works team rustling branches there. And if you look in the background, it's one of our dump trucks with a tailgate off. How did we keep track of all of this debris cleanup? Did we use some kind of high-tech computer program or software? No, not really. If you look at that map, that's the actual map that I used. Every day I would get an update from our field crews. We had 3 crews out every day picking up piles, and they would update me, and then I would highlight my map, really high tech with a highlighter. And then I would brief City Manager Poe every day and let him know how much we did. And It took us about 2 weeks to do our cleanup. And we worked a Saturday and then also the picture on the right is a FEMA 214 form. Everything that we did as far as hauling loads, activities, all has to be put on those 214 forms, and then everything's sent in. That we're eventually going to try to get a FEMA reimbursement for the overtime, the personnel. And a couple photos of our crews out picking up the debris. It's a really a daunting task. I've actually been in the field and done it myself, that you roll down the road and it's pile after pile, pile after pile. And I gotta, give a really hand salute to all of our public works employees that they knocked that out within 2 weeks. And it was a all hands on deck type thing. We had parks employees, we had streets employees, we had sanitation employees. Everything gets kind of pushed to the back burner as far as our service requests. And we get that debris cleaned up for the residents, and then we go back to our normal day-to-day activities. That's a shot of one of our trucks. We took approximately 250 dump truck loads to our closed landfill site north of the airport. And then the next photo, we actually got a burn authorization from the Department of Forestry, and we burned every bit of that debris. In fact, we're out burning again today. We're still burning debris. So none of that debris went into the landfill, never went to the transfer station. It was all burned. So that's kind of sums up my topic, but I will take some questions if anybody has any questions. Sure. No, emergency management is actually Pasco County. But we partner with Pasco County. Good question. Well, we didn't weigh it, but approximately 4,000 cubic yards is what we come up with, which is quite a bit. Back in 2017, we collected about 10,000 square yards. It did the same thing. So. We didn't really get hit with a lot of rainfall. We had preparations made with our pumping stations, but I think we only got about 3 inches of rain. So you go back to that forecasting and planning. At one time, those 155-mile-an-hour winds were coming our way, Tampa Bay. So that's what we prepared for. Yes, sir.
That's a lot of debris and all, but we went off the beach.
Oh, yeah. Well, when we cleaned up from Hurricane Irma, 2017, we cleaned up for 6 weeks straight, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. So you're right. We dodged a bullet. We were prepared for it, but I'm glad it didn't hit us, but I really feel bad for the folks in Southwest Florida. Really feel bad for them. Any other questions? Best advice I can give everybody is have a plan, stick to that plan, prepare for the worst, and pray for the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. If I can just touch on that question you asked about emergency management, all of the municipalities, the 6 municipalities in the county work really well with Pasco County Emergency Management. The school board provides schools or opens up schools as the shelters. So I know there's some questions about shelter in Zephyrhills. We've had conversations with Commissioner Oakley, also with Andy Fossa, who's the emergency management director. The county has guidelines, and I'm not trying to divert but the city doesn't make that call on where their shelters are. It's the county and emergency management emergency management and the school system work together on their criteria. Sorry, I'm looking that way because I know they'd asked the question. So no. I don't answer that. So, but that is something we're looking at, and working with emergency management as we go through, these situations. So I do want to say a big thank you to Public Works, Utilities, our PD, all staff members did a great job cleaning the streets, running generators, chasing lift stations to make sure that all the toilets flushed and nothing backed up. So, thank you to the crews. Next up, we have Gail Hamilton, our Community Redevelopment Agency Director. Gail's been the Community Redevelopment Agency Director in Zephyrhills for the past 8 years before coming back home to Pasco County. She was the CRA Director in Kissimmee for 14 years. Gail's a certified redevelopment administrator, past president of the Florida Redevelopment Association, and past president of the Friends of Florida Main Street. Gail is a native of Pasco County and currently resides in Zephyrhills. I have to say something. They have a bet if they have a bet if Gail and someone else has a bet if I would talk about her presentation. So I just have to say I'm excited about this. I think it's a great addition to our park system. I'll look at the hospital and say, pay attention. We're looking for sponsors, and we would love to see if the foundation would be able to help us. If anybody knows anyone from Blue Triton, the manufacturer of Zephyrhills water, anyone from Publix Charities, don't be afraid to ask them to help us. Gail.
Good morning. So when the chamber asked me to do this presentation on Hercules Park that we've been working on for a couple of years, it is an economic development summit. So the idea of I had several people upstairs say, it's a park. How is that economic development? Thank you. Oh, okay. So I'm here to tell you this morning that parks and communities are absolutely economic development. Great communities have great parks. And thank you. So Hercules Park started long before I came back to Zephyrhills. The city has worked with the school board, the county. There was a lot of back and forth before we actually got the park. So the city feels very, very appreciative of the land that was given to us by the school board to create this park. Now, as the CRA director, my job is to increase ad valorem taxes. My job is to make the CRA district better. Hercules Park is in my district. When we started discussing the park, I went out and I started looking at other cities who have great parks. What made them spend the money? Parks are expensive. That's not a cheap thing to do, let me tell you that. And yes, we have certainly reached out to many corporations asking for donations because this is a once in a generation park and we want to do it right. So when we started discussing the park, everybody had an opinion. And we had working with, you can go to the next one. There. So we started looking at the park. What could we do? We had the Parks and Rec Advisory Board oversaw several public meetings. We had City Council, CRA, we had surveys. Everybody wanted something. A lot of them wanted a pool. We can't do a pool. So go to the next one. So we started looking at the key design elements. How do you connect it to the broader community? You want this park to be accessible to young and old alike. We want to create a trailhead with signage, bike parking. We didn't really have a restroom in the first iteration of the plan. because we were trying to save money at the time. It was at the beginning of the discussions of the park. And our thought was, well, we'll just have them use Culver's or Wawa. I hope nobody from Culver's is here. So I will say that the consultant, Kimley Horn, was not really thrilled about that idea, but we really pushed it on them until we had a public meeting. And the city council members raked Kimley Horn over the coals, to the point where I felt so bad for James, the lead architect, that I stood up and said, okay, council, it really wasn't the consultant. It was staff that said, let's not have a restroom. And the council was very clear, have a restroom. Let's do this nice, let's do it great. We'll worry about the money, but let's make a great park. So from that, again, we started looking at the shade structures, and this land is very special to this community. It is the Hercules Powder Company site. We still have members of our community that remember growing up on that land. And so we absolutely want to make an homage to that land, to those people, the workers of Hercules Powder Company. It's important. We have looked at pictures and stories and trying to come up with ideas that relate the powder company to the park, not just for today, but the next generation. Will our children's children know that there was a Hercules Powder Company there? And I will also tell you, the Hercules Powder Company is still in business today. DuPont purchased them, and so we are working with them to try and come up with some type of public art that relates back to the workers of the powder company. We also want to have interpretive signage. The idea of telling the story, not only of the powder company, but also of Zephyrhills. We have some great history here, and we have people, thank you, moving in every day that don't know anything about Zephyrhills. So we want to have an opportunity to provide some information about our community in the park. We want to have a themed playground, because there is nothing better in this world. If you are having a bad day, if you go to the park at lunchtime and you can hear kids laughing and running around and enjoying themselves. And the great thing about a park is the richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor play together, sit by each other, talk about the sunshine, whatever it is, and they're all community members. It's that bonding of our community that we're trying to achieve through this park. Yes, it has a great restroom as well. We'll have a trailhead because we want to create that connection. The county, the state, the city, our planning department have worked very hard to create a bike trail and plans for more bike trails through our community, and we want the park to be part of it. We'll have specific things for the bike and the trailheads. I don't know, there's some kind of repair stands where it, Dr. Stovall. But we will, right now we're working on the bones of the park. We'll get to that next. So we also wanted to consider safety, crime prevention, maintenance. You know, if we spend, I don't have a council member here. If we spend $5 million on a park and you go to it on opening day when the ribbon is cut and it's beautiful and all the plants are great and the building is beautiful, we're all so happy. But if we don't plan well, in a year's time, the plants don't look as great. They've been trampled. We didn't plant them in the right place and the kids are riding or jumping on them or riding their bikes through them. So we want to make sure that we are cognizant of how the park will be used and that maintenance will not be the overriding factor for the city for the next 20 years. Because I work very closely with Shane, our Public Works Director, and every time I come up with an idea, he says, maintenance, Gail, maintenance. Make sure you consider maintenance. And then there's the return on investment. It's a huge investment for the city to do a once in a generation park. So what do we get out of it? Well, when you live in the economy today and you can work for anybody and live anywhere, we want you to live here. We want you to have a great park that if you want to take your laptop and go out and sit under one of the shade structures and spend your day working, what a great opportunity. What a great thing for you to do. So we want to make sure that that is available to you. We want to maximize the space, use every inch of it that we possibly can, but also make it flexible. We'd love to have Friday night in the park there, or, you know, different tournaments. All of it can be done there if we plan it correctly. So in the public meetings that we did, I learned a long time ago that you can't just stand in front of a group of people and say, okay, what do you want? Tell us what you want. You have to give people pictures so they can say, I like that, I don't like that. I want that, I don't want that. So we started with the elements of the master plan, looking at what we can do. Next slide. And again, you know, we narrowed it down, the first group of pictures, not a lot of like on those pictures. Didn't care for them that much. So we came back with some other images. Looks a little better. The whole time we are meeting with the public is coming in, my phone is ringing off the hook. Everybody has an opinion. And it's wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful in today's atmosphere of apathy. Nobody, you know, if you're against something, you come to a city council meeting and you complain. If you're for something, you just say, well, that's great. So having people call in, email, support the idea of Hercules Park has made it so much easier for staff and for the council. So now we're at the updated plan. We keep refining it. We keep working on it. Can you show that other picture? So this is the picture that we're using to try and talk about the theme of the park and how we relate it to Hercules Park or Hercules Powder Company. In the lower left, you see the old pine tree, and that's how they used to collect turpentine. They would make the cuts in the tree and put the bucket on the bottom, and the turpentine would run down into the bucket. The picture to the right of that is the tree that will be in the splash pad, and it will have marks in it, and you'll be able to, the kids will be able to see how it was done. And water will shoot out of the top of it, because if you're going to have a tree in a splash pad, it's got to have water. So it'll be fun and informative at the same time. We looked at barrels. These are pictures from the powder company. The barrels. We're going to use the barrels. They're going to sink them in the ground. There'll be wood. And water will pop out of them. So the kids can run from space to space. And again, it's that theme of the powder company. We're going to use the stumps and create seating, create water features out of those stumps. And they're not real stumps, they'll be imitation made out of concrete. And we'll also use the image of the Hercules Powder Company throughout the park. Okay, you can do the next one. So now We have 0.75 miles of perimeter walking trail done in 3 different loops. We have the stormwater pond that was originally built as part of the Wawa and Culver's project that was never supposed to have water, but it's never had a dry day either. So we're going to enhance it. There's going to be a playground and picnic area with the existing tree canopy. The one thing about that land are the trees are absolutely stunningly beautiful. And so we're trying to come up with a plan that will keep those trees, that we can maintain the trees. Open play field with the restrooms, a splash pad and picnic shelters, and 5.3 acres of trails for walking and bike riding. We'll also have an additional 54 parking spaces. So again, we're refining it. We're getting closer and closer to our final design and final budget number as well. And so this is the updated plan where you can see the splash pad, the restrooms, the playground area. You can also see in the next one. This is the restroom. We looked at the buildings from Hercules and they were all board and batten homes with a porch or a stoop on them. So this is our interpretation of those, the original homes. So we're still working on it. Can you go back one? We're still working on it. We're still refining it. We're still trying to create the best park available to our residents and our visitors. And we have a presentation in front of the City Council and the CRA next week as we work towards the final number on the park and the final design. But you can't look at those images and not want to be in that park. You can't look at what we're trying to design and say, boy, what a great place to bring in and have my lunch. Or have the kids ride their bikes, and I can sit under one of the shade shelters and enjoy my day. We are blessed with great weather. And except for today, we are usually blessed with great weather. And we want to play up on that. And we want to have our residents and our visitors give them a wonderful park to use. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer. Yes, Mayor. You'll always be mayor to me. Yes. The idea of Henry Street is so that the kids can ride their bikes and get into the park without having to go on 54. And we also have a new development that's going across the street of Henry, right there at the back entrance of the park, across the street from the police department. So we'll have entrances from there as well. We also want to create different entrances through public art at Henry, at Culver's, at 52, so that there's a different experience when you come into the park. Any other questions? Yes, sir. No. Well, we will also have, there'll be cameras in the park. It's a half a block away from the police department. We're designing it so that the police can drive up and look through the park. So even if we put a fence on it, if you want to get in that park, you're going to get in. So we're trying to do security through other means than just a fence. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. No, not at this time.
Never. There's no plan.
Right. Yes.
So we don't know that at this time. So currently at this time, the subdivision that's being built there at the corner of Eighth and Henry will have an entrance out to Henry. And Henry will be paved further to the west to connect to that entrance. And that'll kind of be the terminus of the road at this point. And then we'll have conversations in the future about extending, because where it comes out, it would create a weird intersection there at Fort King and 301. So it's something that would have to be worked out and engineered. Have an entrance on Henry, 8th and Fort King. I think it's 2 on Henry. 1 on 8th and 1 on out to Fort King, kind of where's just went blank, the dance studio. Helen's dance studio is.
So we're really trying to provide a multitude of entrances into the park. So whether you're driving, walking, or riding your bike, there is opportunity for you to get into the park safely and exit safely. Yes, ma'am. Well, we are about 60% on the construction documents. So as long as the city council approves the final number, we should be in construction within the year. Maybe January. So this isn't one of those things, yes, when I started talking about this 2 years ago, and I was still talking about it 2 years later, you know, people were like, yeah, I've heard that before, but we're actually doing construction documents now. There's a budget, there's money in the budget. So yes, we intended to build this. Yes, ma'am. The next, and I'll get to that in just a second if you'll let me, I'd forgotten that, and thank you for reminding me. So not only are we working on construction documents right now for Hercules Park, the next thing up is Zephyr Park. We have a 50 acre park that when the CRA looks at it, and I'm always the CRA director, I look at not just the park, because the park does not provide any taxes. It is city owned and does not garner any ad valorem taxes. But I look at all of the property surrounding it. And believe me, when we start working on Zephyr Park, development will happen around it. We are currently doing a neighborhood plan for Zephyr Park area and Oakside, which is across the street. We can't really figure out why this side of 301 has seen incredible increases in valuation. That side of 301, not so much. So one of the things that we want to do, or we're looking at, is how do you engage the neighborhood through the park and make another great park? So we'll have Hercules on this side, we'll have Zephyr Park on this side, and we are continuing to look for opportunities for engagement for the community to engage through parkland. It is, again, great communities have great parks. And in Zephyr Park, we'll have the disc golf. We just couldn't fit it in and keep the trees. So that is the answer to the disc golf, because I knew I'd get questions. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Any others? Thanks so much.
Thank you, Gail. If you didn't hear, council has not seen this yet, so if you like it, or if you don't like it, just wait till Tuesday to tell them about it, because it has to be presented to them on Monday evening. So I hope that you are excited. I'm excited to see the improvement that's going on at Hercules. I think it's will be a great amenity for several people in the community. Remember, we're taking donations. It can be the Advent Health Splash Park. All right. Thank you. Next up, we have Todd Vandenberg. He's our community, he's our Planning director, holy cow. He graduated from FSU in 1986 with a degree in geography and urban and regional planning. He's been working in urban planning his entire career in municipal and environmental planning. He's been blessed to be employed with the great city of Zephyrhills since 1996. I will tell you that he entered drop, so he has 3 years left. Not that he's counting, less than 3 years. He started out with the city working by himself, but now has a department of 3 other professional planners. His hobbies include FSU sports, tennis, and volunteering for New Walk Church. Todd Vandenberg.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here and thank Vicky and the chamber for putting out this great event for the city to get together with the community and share some exciting things going on in Zephyrhills. And of course, I've been asked to talk about development, growth, transportation, those types of topics, and that's what we'll focus on today. And I start off with the conversation that we'll have, and it's broken up into 3 parts. The first part, we'll talk a little bit about the growth from when I first got here and then coming all the way up to 2020. We'll share a little bit about how our population, our demographics are changing, how the city boundaries have significantly changed since I arrived here, and some historic trends that have occurred during that time period of 1990 to 2020. And then we'll jump to Zephyrhills today. All the current development that's occurring. Zephyrhills is growing, it's expanding. There's some challenges that we're facing, and we'll talk a little bit about that current development. Housing has become a key issue, and we'll share some ideas and thoughts about that and some needs that we have in Zephyrhills, and again, some of the infrastructure challenges that the city collectively, probably with Pasco County, we're all having to deal with. And then I'll finish with planning for our future. We'll talk a little bit about, we're updating our city comprehensive plan, our blueprint for growth, and some of the meetings we've been having on that. So we'll share a little piece on that, the importance of smart growth now, and then economic sustainability. So how did we get there? 1990 to 2020, okay? Here's just an interesting slide showing the population of Zephyrhills, again, from that time period, 1990 to 2020. And you can see over a 30-year period, we start off in 1990 with population of 18,154. And then you can see the projected population of 2035 being 22,600. In all actuality, that number may be a little bit low. And I'll provide a justification for that. We kind of populated our figures based on our current recent trends, about 2.3 units, people per unit. However, now with the development that we're seeing such larger homes, not just 2 and 3, but 3, 4, and 5 bedroom homes. And of course, that equates to more people. So that population might even be larger as we get to that horizon of 2035 that you see there on the far right, which is what we're planning for actually with our comprehensive plan update, the year 2035. Here's an interesting slide. If you weren't familiar with our city boundaries, they're interesting like most communities. And what you can see here is the dots represent our city boundary limits in 1990. And the other blue shaded areas that protrude outside those dots is our current boundary limits. So you can see the city has grown to the north, where we had the Gore Dairy on the north end. All that's developing now with used to be Zephyr Commons, now it's Abbott Park. There's some additional land to the north that's some speculation going on north end of town for some multifamily residential development. And of course, we've grown to the west with Silverado. That's the development you see on the far left there. It's almost built out now. And of course, some other residential, of course, occurring on Simons Road. And then we've expanded to the south as well with Hidden River development. So just a background showing how our boundaries are expanding over the years. Okay, talk a little bit about exploring our past growth and some trends and plans. Of course, everyone knows, or if you don't know, if you haven't been here for a while, going back a couple of decades, we were predominantly a retirement community and primarily encompassed with retirees from the north, retirement communities that represented the type of housing that we had and the demographics that we had here in Zephyrhills. And you can see in 2010, the average age was 65 and 31.2% of that year-round population consisted of that. So interesting enough, you fast forward just one decade and the average age dropped 10 years. Now that's pretty significant. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but for one decade to the population to drop 10 years is pretty significant. That's because of all the residential homes and people are coming from Tampa and other areas. The other thing I think that's interesting as a base is our residential land use, and we're updating our city comprehensive plan right now. And what we did is we looked at 2010 and we calculated our residential land use acreages and percentages. And as you can see on the slide there, in 2010, we had 1,146 acres of residential land use in our city boundary limits. And what that made up was about 20% of the total city acreage. And a lot of that was your single family residential development. On an upcoming slide, I'll talk more about where we're at now. But also during that time period, we've started to put, I mentioned a couple of them here on the slides. One I'll start with is the airport. We listened to the community. The airport was an economic driver and economic draw, and you can see today the results of that. We prioritized that, and a lot of funding, a lot of infrastructure is going into that airport, as y'all know. We've also prioritized the growth in our downtown areas. So we created, you just heard from Gail Hamilton, hired a CRA director, created a community redevelopment area, created a Main Street, created a form-based code. That picture that you see in the far right there is an example of form-based code. It's a mix of use where you have retail or office on the bottom floor and going up a couple floors with residential. We've had that in place. We're the first city in Pasco County to adopt a form-based code, and now we're starting to see some examples of that. If you drive down 7th Street, you see some townhomes that were just built. Those are in a form-based code where they're brought up to the street. The garages are in the back. We had them improve the alley, so that's improved. So that's an example of residential. You've probably seen the Dollar General at the south end of town. Again, they didn't want to do this, but we required them because we have a form-based code. They had to bring the building up to the public realm of the street, and with a wide sidewalk and all the parkings in the back. Those are just two examples, and we look forward to identifying additional catalyst projects and opportunities to work with the development community to develop what you see there with a mix of use going taller. And that's what our code allows for, and that's what you'll see in the future in Zephyrhills. And we created a historic district, and we have a historic district in the city, grant opportunities where people can apply for $5,000 matching grants. Again, that was because of priority. We're a little bit different in Zephyrhills. We have these nice 1 and 2 story, 1 and 2 bedroom homes, but they need a lot of attention. They need some work. So we prioritize that and create grant opportunities. Okay, Zephyrhills today, some current trends and needs. Here I'll just talk about some development projects, some of the major developments that we have going on. As you can see there, it's about 3,000 units. That's a lot, right? Especially for our community. Since I've been here in the mid-90s, it's probably the highest number of residential units. We're seeing the trends. Pasco County's developing a lot of residential. It's just not us. It's happening all over the state of Florida in your predominant high growth areas. So we're not alone in that. We fortunately supplement that with some industry and commerce there. You see about 365,000 square feet. And some of the examples I'm showing, the largest residential project that we have right now is on the far left, and that's Abbott Square. That's on the west side of Simons Road, wraps around the tennis center and north of Island Boulevard. So that's I feel a well-done residential project. They have one-story villas, they have single-family residential, they have townhomes, very attractive looking amenity center that we're going to allow them to connect to the tennis center. There's a lake there with a fishing pier, kayak launch, so should be a good quality development. And you see on the other photos there, we have an indoor storage facility. Those fancy car washes and indoor storage facilities seem to be the priority on development these days. So we have one of those, the second from the bottom there on 301, just south of Daughtry. The bottom slide is a retail strip development that's proposed, and we're going through the planning process right now at the northwest corner of 301 and Pretty Pond. That'll have a variety of retail, a few drive-through restaurants, and a couple of apartment projects. Apartments are a hot commodity right now. You're seeing that in Pasco County. They've come to Zephyrhills too. And the second and third slide there are proposed apartment projects. One's on Fort King, the other one's on Pretty Pond Road. And then the top slide is some industrial development that we have going on. So we're happy to see some industrial development creating good jobs there in the Park Place Industrial Park. Here's just a national perspective. I won't spend a lot of time on that. You can see some of the trends that we're seeing nationally, and here as it relates to Florida and other areas, you can see the high growth areas and some of the where some of the cost burdens are. And that's something we're taking a priority look at is housing with the update of our comprehensive plan and looking at affordable housing, how important that is. The pricing of homes have gone up so much that we want to continue to look at opportunities and creativity and identifying opportunities to provide affordable housing in Zephyrhills. Here you can just see from a state perspective, kind of where those high growth areas are. And you can see kind of in central Pasco, central part of the state with Hillsborough and Pasco and Polk, and then of course down Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, where the prices have just really increased dramatically there. You see in the slide there, Pasco County population increased by 25.5%. So a lot of residential occurring in the area. Okay. So Zephyrhills today, we've had a 31% increase in population since 2010. I talked earlier about the middle, that slide there. In 2010, we had about 1,400 acres or 20% of our land for residential property. Fast forward to today, we were updating the comp plan, so we ran the numbers. And today we're just at under 3,000 acres. So what does that mean percentage wise? Well, we've gone from 20% to 40%. Well, and there's no magical formula for how much residential we should have, but everything I've always learned and heard and gone to conferences, heard about housing that's a good standard for communities, and everyone's different. But 35% is the target. And the reason is you want to have that balance. It's important to not get oversaturated with the housing. Housing, of course, requires much more services than like your industrial, your commercial office types of land uses. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And the rise of the single family and multifamily housing in the last 2 decades have really increased dramatically. Transportation needs, we'll talk a little bit about some of the road projects. We all realize that with all this residential, both in Zephyrhills, Southeast Pasco County, where we're dealing with transportation needs. So both in cars, bikes, trails. Okay. Here we're talking about some of the things that we have in the works. The middle slide there shows the intersection of Pretty Pond and Wire Road. And we're proposing a roundabout there. A lot of residential development in there. We have to improve the level of service there, make it safer. So that's currently under some preliminary design and review. If you probably have seen on the top slide on the right, we're extending Dairy Road. from Pretty Pond. That's going to be in the back of the public shopping center and connect all the way to Cossack Road. And then that'll actually eventually go further north as well. So that'll help create that grid. We're going to have an opening from all that residential there to get into the rear of the shopping center. So that'll help the trip movements in that area. Cossack Road is going to be continued east to connect to Otis Allen and Wire Road. That's under getting reviewed by Pasco County, getting kind of right-of-way use permit. And we have some work occurring on Simons Road. That's a photo there on the bottom showing Simons Road getting connected to Fort King Road with some turn lanes on Fort King Road. And then at the other bookend at Simons and Island Boulevard, we have a traffic signal that this month they're going to actually begin working on installing a traffic signal at the intersection of Simons and Island Boulevard, which is really needed. Here we just show, it's hard to see at this scale, but we take the sidewalks and the trails. The city this fiscal year made a decision to spend $1 million on sidewalks. And a lot of those sidewalks are occurring in the grid. That's a very positive thing. Why? One reason is because of the school situation now, the buses aren't running that close to the school. So this will provide a safer haven, better environment for the kids that live in the old grid downtown to get to the schools by providing those sidewalks in the grid. Of course, new development requires sidewalks, and we're working with the MPO and the Technical Advisory Committee on trail opportunities that connect through city, county, state rights of ways. So transportation needs, we're working, we've always worked pretty well with Pasco County. And right now, County Road 54 is under construction right now. And that's a collective effort between the city of Zephyrhills and Pasco County. We're partnering in that. Saw it as a priority. If we waited, let the county do it, probably would have been down the list quite a ways, but we saw that as a priority. So now you're seeing improvements, and I got a picture of that coming up. We participate in the traffic meetings that you see there. We've created a task work order with Kimley Horn, their traffic engineer, and we're identifying hot spots. So areas in the city that are problematic, we're going to call them out, identify the boundaries of those, and look at all the different opportunities of how we can make improvements, whether that's we need additional right-of-way, whether we put in turn lanes, sidewalks, trails, anything to make it safer and for these roads to work more efficiently, effectively. Extension of 56, that's still going on by DOT. We hope to have a meeting with DOT pretty soon on where and what that alignment will be of the continuation of 56 east of 301. Then we've been also working with DOT now, it seems like forever, on 301 improvements. So we are getting close, yes, Mayor, of getting some final design we've heard this year. And so there'll be improvements on 301 and 6th Street. Here, just real quick, water. It's a challenge. We're working with Swift Mud. With all the development, we're going to have to increase our water use permit. There's some modeling going on right now. So we're working through that process with the Southwest Florida Water Management District to ensure we have the water necessary for the growth we're experiencing. Planning for our future, okay. We're updating our comprehensive plan. We've had a lot of listening sessions. We're listening to the community, hearing what their thoughts are, what they like, what they don't like, what their ideas are. We want to hear from the community. There's still opportunities for you to get involved. You can go to our link that's shown on this slide, and we do have additional community meetings. I would say priority we're going to look at is where we want to grow. In those areas we want to grow, what's it going to be and what's it going to look like? And we want to work closely with Pasco County. So there's some synergy there of kind of what's happening around us. So they're updating their comp plan too. So I think we're going to have a MAP meeting where comp plan person's coming to talk. So we need to work closely with Pasco County as we collectively update our comprehensive plans to have a clear vision, a good blueprint, how we're going to grow in the future. Here's some smart growth. It's a priority for us. That form-based code, instead of just pushing development out into the hinterland, providing more incentives to have new development, redevelopment in our downtown. You know, the reality is we can continue pushing out in the hinterland, spending all the resources, expanding our services, that are necessary, or we could reinvest in the downtown and existing neighborhoods where we have all those services. Just makes a lot of good financial sense. Okay. Housing again is a strong priority. We call the missing middle there. You can see a graph showing all these different opportunities and alternatives for other than just mobile homes, duplexes, and single family and apartments or townhomes. There's a lot of different creative, unique alternatives in housing that other communities are doing. So we're going to really push and try to incentivize new alternatives for housing. Okay. And we're getting close here. Economic resiliency. Of course, when COVID-19 pandemic, Hurricane Ian, all these disasters or stresses occur, is your community going to be resilient economically, fiscally? It's so important for us to be balanced again. I'll say that again, not oversaturated residential, but resilient in the form of a balanced land use pattern, and where we're starting to do fiscal impact analysis. David Engel, you hear from in a little bit. We're going through a land use petition right now that's looking at changing industrial residential. We're looking at the fiscal impact analysis of that, what it means financially, what it means to service residential versus industrial, and partnering with all of our other agencies to ensure we're making good smart growth decisions. We need to provide economic incentives for those things we've talked about that we want to prioritize, and really place a strong emphasis on industry and manufacturing. So that's my contact information. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Yes, sir. Jane?
I don't have that information off the top of my head, but it's a substantial amount of sidewalks that we're close to going out to bid on that project. The plans have been prepared and checked over by staff and the engineer. So.
I thought I had a photo in here, but County Road 54 is being improved right now. Long turn lanes for the bus, multi-purpose trails going along the high school, and sidewalk on the north side. I guess I didn't get it in there, but. Eileen? A very good topic, probably more so for the county, but I think you're 100% correct. I actually reached out. I had a guy I was playing tennis with give me a contact of a guy in Polk County. They pass on referendum a small amount per property owner that goes into a fund, and they purchase not only environmentally sensitive land, but open space land that they don't want developed. So, you know, it's a strategy that could be put in place for those types of topics you brought up, or just for environmental reasons, or just areas where you want to have a break in the development. So that's something, you know, we could communicate, talk some more with Pasco County. Maybe it could be a collective effort on probably the hinterland where we don't have development. You're going up 301 or Lahoop Hill, the highest point there where you got that tower, maybe that could be preserved and be a park. And so there's opportunities to do that and that's one fiscal opportunity that Polk County is doing right now. Yes, sir. Well, I would say probably if I had to gather northeast right now, we've had property owner developer interest north of Otis Allen, and that's something we want to talk with the county and see what their vision goals are for that area. Of course, some redevelopment opportunities going south on 301. We all know that needs to happen, right, on all the way down to Chansey, and then we have some interest going north, but west, probably not so much, especially along Island Boulevard. The county has utilities out there, and if we don't have the utilities, a lot of times fiscally, it doesn't make good sense because that utilities drives a lot of the fiscal impact on development. And And for example, going down State Road 54, a lot of that's already developed, so probably not so much going west. Yep. Oh, yeah. That's a task work order. Again, we signed up with recently with Kimley Horn. They're looking at helping us with identifying and providing alternatives to our transportation hotspots, and the idea of going to what Pasco County has, similar to a mobility fee, that would provide us a little more flexibility on our transportation impact fees and where and how those funds can be used. No, not necessarily. I guess it depends if we change our formulas, but it just opportunities to do more with the transportation, like for trails or sidewalks, we could use transportation fees. Was there one more question? Yes, sir. Well, I think again, getting creative with our housing opportunities and alternative choices. The city approved an accessory dwelling unit ordinance that we tried to be proactive, where a person could take their garage in the rear yard and convert it into accessory dwelling unit. And last conference I went to got a lot more information how we want to try to look at expanding that program. But that's one instance where I think, yeah, with the changes since COVID with the office, try to talk to the development community and different opportunities to have the work from home, or is again, under that housing priority, we need to look at all those types of opportunities and creative things that folks are doing for exactly that reason. Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right, thanks, Todd. Our next speaker, I don't believe needs an introduction, but we have Senator Danny Burgess. Senator Burgess is a lifelong resident of Florida, born and raised in Zephyrhills. Danny was elected at age 18 to Zephyrhills City Council, making him the city's youngest councilman in history. He served on city council while attending USF, where he got a bachelor's in political science in 2008. He received his law degree from Berry Law School in 2011. He joined the U.S. Army Reserves in 2012. He was elected mayor of Zephyrhills in 2013 and served until 2014, when he was elected to his first of 3 terms to the Florida House of Representatives. He served in the House until 2019, when Governor Ron DeSantis appointed him executive director of the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. He served in that role until 2020, when he was elected to the Florida Senate, where he currently serves as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Burgess currently serves as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He works at Shoemaker, Loop and Kendrick LLP. He continues to serve in the U.S. Army Reserve with the rank of major. He and his wife Courtney live in Zephyrhills and have 3 children: Adeline, Danny III, and Eleanor, and their dogs Briar and Holly. Senator Burgess.
Well, and timely, as Pasco County, I think, eliminated this. What happened with the bunnies? Commissioner Oakley, it's the sale of bunnies. No more sales of bunnies. So we got a bunny the day before. It wasn't through a sale. It was like a private, like somebody was getting rid of a bunny. We took a bunny, and anyway, it was like perfect timing because I didn't know the next day was the commission vote on bunnies. But anyway, funny side note, we now have Hoppy the bunny, which I had nothing to do with. And so I don't have a script. I don't have a speech. I'm just here to say hi, and this could get dangerous, or this could be really, we'll see how this goes. Right. But I'm just happy to be here. I was up pretty early over at Lake Jovita talking to our Feeding Pasco's elderly group, doing amazing work. And so now we're back home in Zephyrhills, and it's good to see so many familiar, wonderful faces that help make this community what it is. I think that we really are ground zero for all that is happening, not just in Pasco County, but in the Tampa Bay area. And that's something to be very proud of. I was literally just talking the other day, actually it was yesterday at lunch in Tampa, to a group kind of acknowledging the rapid changes that have occurred in our area and our shared communities, but in a positive light with how Zephyrhills, I believe, has done a really good job of embracing the change. And in doing so, being able to kind of control the change, for lack of a better choice of words. I think as opposed to kind of saying, hey, not in my backyard mentality, and having that growth and opportunity go around you, I feel like the team at the city has done an incredible job of welcoming it and understanding that with time comes change and new opportunities, and recognizing it for what it is, embracing it, and in doing so, being able to kind of help shape and form, control is not the right word, but shape and form how that growth affects our community and how we can kind of balance that growth against that need to maintain our community flavor and feel that we all know and love and why we live here. And I really believe that we're a great example of that. And we should be very proud of that, because as our town's grown to the north, I believe that our downtown has witnessed an epic righteous like revival, and it's still happening. It's in the middle of it, but I think that we're going to continue to see that transpire and grow and transform into something that I remember as a kid getting Slurpees at the 7-Eleven and going to the movie theater here. And so there's more to come, but it's really pretty cool to witness it happening. And hopefully we can kind of continue that momentum. What's happening at the SunTrust building. What's happening at the SunTrust building is pretty fantastic with the whiskey distillery that's going to go. That's not a secret, is it? I just might have, did I just blow the lid off of that? No. Okay. Is this recorded? Is Victor Young here? Oh, no. Anyway, so there's some like ridiculously incredible things that are happening in this town that are, like, as somebody who grew up here, you scratch your head and you're like, man, it's happening here in Zephyrhills. That's really cool. So it's hard to believe, but it's also not hard to believe, because that's the energy and the marketing that we've put forward into this community. And I do believe that success, half of the success is not just the risk and the capital, it's also messaging. And I'm a firm believer in if you message it, if you build this energy and this expectation, there will be this demand. And so let's keep that going. Let's push forward. Let's make it happen. The state is a willing partner in this endeavor. We've been blessed to have a legislator that looks out for our area every time he wakes up, and that's Wilton. And we're not losing him, but he's going on to even bigger and better things. But that's something that we've been very spoiled with. And obviously, Randy Maggard and I will continue to fight for those appropriations and opportunities. But having Wilton has been a blessing, to say the least, and has made that a little easier on us all. So we're going to have a little more work to do, and we're willing to do it, but it's going to take a collective. And so let's continue to push for that state funding, because I think the state has recognized, we're very good with the dollars they give us. We spend it wisely. We don't overspend, and we deliver on time. And that's something that the state looks for. We also are willing to step up to the plate and match funding. That's another thing the state looks for. So we've demonstrated that the money goes a long way by investing here in Zephyrhills. So let's continue that trajectory and that reputation. That's very, very, very important. I would encourage you all to come to Tallahassee. The chamber has done a great job of being very involved in coming to Tallahassee. The city council has always been very active in coming to Tallahassee along with city staff. It's important to do so, not just to kind of see what happens during session, but also to kind of lend your ear and your voice to the legislators as they're making decisions, not just me. I'm blessed to be able to see you all the time. And so I get excited when I see you up in Tallahassee, but you also need to communicate that with various legislators in the process on both chambers. And so it's important for you to be there. We do have a lot to offer, and I think a lot of people could learn from our successes. And so that's critical. We believe in this town so much. Hopefully you've all seen our office downtown for the last 2 years on Main Street. It was like a lifelong dream to have an office there. And it's kind of cool I didn't know what it would be, a law office, whatever. Like, I've just always wanted an office downtown. So it's really, really cool to have that happen. It really is a fulfillment of like a childhood dream, because I just grew up down the street. So Jonathan and Natalie from my team are here. You see them bouncing around town, usually walking dogs outside, because we're a very dog friendly office. So if you have a pet, bring them in. We like that. I don't know if our landlord does, but they don't know. They're in Apopka. They don't really ever stop by. So that's cool. But, whatever we can do, we're always here. Just let us know. Partnerships are the way to success. I think the greatest partnership we've had was probably one of the first that we saw come together with State Road 56. It probably would not have happened but for the city's willingness to essentially guarantee a large percentage of the loan that the county was going to take out through the FDOT SBA loan. What was that called? It was. Yep, there you go. So with the county partnership through Ronnie, Mike, and everybody, and with the city's willingness, the state recognized that we were stepping up to the plate, and then the private sector got involved, and they started donating rights of ways, things like that they could have made money on, but we recognized the need, and that's how things get done. It's that public-private partnership, and so that willingness to be a part of the solution is a part of our success. I'd be happy to take questions because I know I'm rambling at this point, but my goal was to be the mid-morning motivator. And so I hope I'm succeeding. I was a lot funnier at 7:30 this morning, but that's because Jonathan wrote me a speech. So now you just get me waking up and ranting. So how you doing? Is it fun? Are we good? Hey, Melanie? I wasn't gonna go there because no, I'm glad you went there. I just didn't want to be the one. No, don't retract it. You just opened Pandora's box, though. I wasn't going to go there because my 15 minutes would turn into 30, but I'm glad you brought it up. That means there's a willingness. So I mentioned the theater. I've had a strong passion to try to do something there for a while. It's a bit of a pet project, but I also think it's one of the biggest final pieces of the puzzle downtown. And that's our home theater. Grew up going there. I see it as much like a miniature, lighter version of the Tampa Theater. And you don't have to ask me, you can ask the CEO of the Tampa Theater. He's come to visit a couple times at our invitation and toured it, and he sees that promise too. And so there's been some opportunities. Main Street Zephyrhills stepped up to the plate big time. I was proud to work with them. We filed an appropriation in both the House and the Senate. Randy Maggard was gracious enough to do it in the House, and Wilton was gracious enough to get the funding in the budget. We were able to get $2 million in the budget for the Zephyrhills home theater. It's a process. And so every time you think you've reached a success point, you realize there's more to be done. And unfortunately, there were vetoes that occurred significantly this year. And that was one of them. Zephyrhills still, I don't want to be doom and gloom. Zephyrhills blew it out of the water again. I mean, the governor signed the budget right here, right? Like a year ago. So you got to be nice to us. We're the city of pure water. And we always deliver on the best events and smiling faces. So, you got to take good care of us. But that was one of the ones that did get axed. And if you know me, I'm not one to quit. In fact, that's kind of when I double down and say, okay, we're going to get this done. So we're going to get this done. We're going to bring it back. It's going to be better than it used to be. It's going to be a multi-purpose venue. Just picture everything from ballet recitals to classic movies that are themed, right? Like Jaws on the 4th of July. That's kind of the one that I'm most excited about. Now we'll have Top Gun 2, maybe on Veterans Day. Can you imagine? But it's going to be what we deserve in our town. And there's a lot of avenues that we can approach this. There's a lot of ways you can skin a cat, and we're going to get creative, and we're going to be persistent, and we're not going to stop until they tell us to go away and give us the money. So with that, if you have ideas, I would be very excited to hear them because there are historical grants. There's various things that we can do to partner together and help make this dream a reality and help bring that resurgence and vibrance back to downtown. Thank you for bringing that up. That's literally number one on my list. So thank you for bringing it up. I just didn't want to throw it up all over the podium here and everybody leaves saying, wow, he's like a one-trick pony.
Telling the historical story by that property, and that theater to a similar thing downtown. It brings hope to our town, and I see all the possibilities.
Thank you.
Our downtown area, these are very much so. Thank you for spearheading and
thank you. I won't. How often do I talk about it, team? Every day, where are we on the theater? Yeah, and it's not even, I don't even know if I'm going to win an election. Where are we on the theater? Thinking about next year, we haven't even got through the election. Literally kind of my personal number one thing. So not joking. Thank you for saying that. It's an old Quonset hut. It was a World War II hangar for the planes. There's so much history there. In fact, so much so I had no idea that they used to build these things pretty regularly into theaters. And this is one of the only ones that's still intact. It needs a lot of work, but it's still intact. How long is it intact for? It's like the Jeffries house. The city saved it so that we could keep it from falling down and not having to knock it down like we had to do to the one that was too far gone in Zephyr Park. So if we wait too long, well, then it is going to go bye-bye. And so we have to do something while we can. And that's what we're going to do. We'll find a way. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Don't you guys miss long hair, Billy?
My wife doesn't. Thank you, Danny. And thank you for your continued support of Zephyrhills. I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. Our next speaker is Dr. Randy Stovall. Dr. Stovall spent over 40 years working in higher education, 30 of those years in management. Randy has a PhD in zoology and taught biology and environmental education classes for many years and continues to teach part-time at Pasco Hernando State College. His work titles included professor, vice chancellor, provost, and executive director. He retired as PHSC East Campus provost after 11 years in the position. Randy serves on the board of directors of the Greater Dade City Chamber after serving 2 years as president. He is now board chairman of the Greater Zephyrhills Chamber of Commerce and will have completed 4 years in his board position at the end of this fiscal year. He is chairman of the Zephyrhills Economic Development Coalition and a member of the Zephyrhills Planning Commission. He is president of the East Pasco Chamber Foundation. He's also chairman of Pasco County MPO's Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Prior community engagement activities include service of the board of the Central Louisiana Chamber of Commerce, Louisiana Employer Support of Guard and Reserve, civilian volunteer activities of Louisiana National Guard, chapter chair and Louisiana State Chair of the American Red Cross, and he's a Paul Harris Fellow. Do you have time to do anything? Like just relax. Early in his career, he taught biology and served as the president of the Florida Marine Science Education Association and the executive director of the Florida Council on Comprehensive Environmental Education. Dr. Stovall.
You gotta have something to do, right? The first slide I have for you is really not intended for you to read it all. It's just to help me remember to talk about the Zephyrhills Economic Development Coalition. And really ZEDC is what we call that. And ZEDC really is the host today. And it is a partnership between the Chamber of Commerce, the city, Main Street, and we have a lot of great volunteers that give their time to help us think about how we can improve economic vitality in our city. So ZEDC is a great thing. If you see some event that we're doing or you see something you want to do, we certainly welcome people to be involved with that. We have typically we meet every other month. This is our meeting this month. So I hope you're enjoying the morning. And Gail, I have to, is Gail still here? I don't know. But one thing I have to tell you, looking at how they're going to honor the Hercules Power Company, that really speaks to me because my mom and dad grew up in an oil field camp, not unlike the Hercules camp where people lived here in Zephyrhills. And the sad news is, if you go to the place where the oil field camp was, there's not a trace left. There's nothing there. No one ever know that whole era occurred, but we're going to have something to honor Hercules. So that's just a wonderful thing. So next slide. We have a couple of different web pages that I'd like to kind of point out to you. One is our Chamber of Commerce webpage, and we have a section there on economic development. That's what I put up there. We have a lot of interesting information. We know that people who are looking at Zephyrhills, you know, they use the internet, right? It's what people do. And so if you Google Zephyrhills, we wanted to be sure there's good information. So let me give you the next slide. And the next slide is something that's new And I don't know how many people are really aware of this thing that we're doing, but you know, sometimes you have to create something new to do the things you wanted to do for a long time, because you need either new money to help you, or you just need a little new excitement. And so the new thing that we have going is this thing we call the East Pasco Chamber Foundation. And it is really our workforce arm. And what's happening, you probably know, and we're proud of this at the chamber, that we have been honoring school kids, 25 years, I think, where we do a program we call Citizen of the Month. And during the school months, we bring in a child from each school and honor them. These are kids nominated from the school as having done something good during that month. And we're really proud of that. And that's now signature program of our foundation. We also do scholarships for high school students. And starting in the spring, we have something very new. It's called Skills That Pay, that we're going to provide opportunities for teens to learn some of those job skills. Some people call those soft skills. And I think those of you who are in the employment game where you have to find people to work for, you have to supervise people, you know, soft skills are something that we hear that need a little help. So hopefully we'll provide that. So before I talk, I got one more web page and then I'll say some other stuff. So we have another web page that we maintain, and this web page was created really in a partnership with PEDC when we first kind of launched ZEDC. And the idea was to have something that just speaks about all the wonderful things in Zephyrhills. And that's what clearly Zephyrhills is about. And you see, we have our logos of the partner organizations there, but there's lots of great information. And one of the things that I'm proudest about there is it's a place for people who want to think about this as perhaps their place to live. We have a profile of all of our schools, our K-12 schools, our charter schools, our private schools, our colleges. And you know, what realtors tell us, and you see if I'm wrong, but schools are an important thing on the list of people looking to move somewhere. So we wanted to provide a good, easy place to find about all the schools here. And I think you should be very proud of them. Now, what I'm going to talk about this morning specifically is sort of the work product. ZEDC every year, in addition to doing some things relatively discussing different topics, going to Tallahassee to support the city during appropriations time. But one of the things we always do is a work project. We also do this economic summit, but the summit is a place for us to reveal our work project for that year. And we've done a bunch of them. If you go to our Clearly Zephyrhills website, you can see all the prior year work projects. This year, think about when we are. This is 2022. We were closed 2 years ago. And so, you know, in the world of business, COVID was awful. And I'm not still sure we're all knowing what we're doing yet, but we think we're kind of back. You know, we're not wearing face masks all the time. So we decided this year what we try to do is to update our retail brochure, and that's what this is, our retail brochure. It's a marketing tool. If somebody at PEDC says they got a prospect, this is something that we would provide to them, and you have a copy on your chairs today of this product. Before I talk about what's in there, though, let me say this. We wouldn't be here today without the work of the volunteers at ZEDC and the work of our staff. This product is primarily the work of Melanie Monson, who's in the back of the room. And as you know, Melanie was our executive director and then president CEO of the chamber. And one of the jobs, and I'm sure Vicki's excited about that as our current CEO, one of the jobs the CEO gets to do is to work on ZEDC. And I think that may be the fun thing, one of the fun things I get to do. Certainly one of the fun things I do as a volunteer. So thank you, Melanie, for putting this together for us. I just want to point out a few things in it. I'm not going to read everything in the report, but I have to tell you, I have the previous one of these here. You don't have it, but you got the current one. Look on What page do we have? Okay, we'll look at that page. That page really is a page that talks about growth, right? And it doesn't have comparison, but it has current snapshots. So thank you, Todd, for giving us that growth profile. Everybody knows there's growth. So this is a snapshot of that. I really would like the next one. That one. So one of the things in retail, of course, is what are people buying, right? That's the big question. What are they buying? And interestingly, what you'll see in that brochure today is we have some data, and it's how households spend their money. And this is fascinating to me. Households spend more money on transportation than any other thing in their life. Can you, at least in our region? That was shocking to me when I was reading that. I thought it would have been housing maybe, but no, it's transportation. So if you're getting ready to buy a new Tesla, good for you. You're in good company. Transportation is important for us. And then after that, it's shelter, and it goes down the list. The thing that really jumped out at me, the last time we had this report on retail sales in Zephyrhills, and by the way, we look at a 10-mile radius around the center of the city. And you might say today, with all the growth that's happened, particularly to the west, why would we do that? But it wasn't always that well developed to the west of us. And so we wanted to have comparison data. So when we did this the last time in 2016, we looked at all the different things people spent, but we added it up, and for an annual sales, it was about $1 billion people were spending in a 10-mile radius. Yeah, it's 2016. So in 2021, which is the data we're now using, guess what that number is? 2.8 billion dollars. Now, $1 billion, that's a lot of money. So that reflects all this growth, and it reflects all the retail that's come in just to the west of us. And think about what you can see if you go 10 miles straight west on 54. Car dealers, shopping malls, a lot of places people spend money. So you say, well, that's exciting, but what's it got to do with Zephyrhills? Well, what it's got to do with Zephyrhills is people are spending money. Obviously, even though it's a recession, and it'd be really fascinating to see a year from now what that year looks like compared to when this data was captured, because inflation wasn't as bad then. But what it means for us here in the community is we have a challenge, and our challenge is to extract more of those expenditures here. We know they're spending, so we need them to spend them in our community. So that leads me to the kind of the last thing to share. And in working with the city manager, we decided our next year's work project would be a deep dive into retail. And one of the things that you'll see in our reports on Clearly Zephyrhills is we have this thing that really came through our collaboration with PEDC called a BizWalk. And a BizWalk is really an in-depth business survey. And so we've done those on a variety of different topics. We had a great one on medical, which I think everybody knows it's a big business here. We have had a couple of times we looked at the industrial corridor out around the airport, but this next year we're going to look at deep dive into retail. And I would be willing to say, I know this is true for me, that nobody in here knows all the different retail outlets that are in Zephyrhills. I can guarantee that. So we hope to capture that. So next year, when we get to the economic summit, we can share with you some of that stuff we learned, and hopefully that'll help us convert more of that retail expenditure right here at home. So with that, thank you for coming. I want to make one correction. I need to update my resume because I'm not currently the chairman of the board. That's Dr. Goolsby. So Ed, thank you for being here this morning. I'm vice chairman, but he's chairman. So thank you all for coming. If you have a question, I'll try to do it. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Stovall. If you're looking at your agenda, it shows that there's a 10-minute break, and I have not done my job and kept the speakers on time. So We're going to pass that break just to be able to get you out of here on time. If you need to use the restroom or get a drink or snack, please get up and do so. I don't think anyone will be offended. If they are, point them to me because it's my fault. Our next speaker is Andrew Sorrentino, the managing partner of the Sarah Vandenberg Tennis and Wellness Center. Andy brings with him a wealth of sports management and coaching expertise as the former director of racket sports at a top-ranked Platinum Country Club. Prior to his move to Florida, Andy spent the last 26 years directing all racket programs at the prestigious Aronimink Golf Course, located in the suburbs of Philadelphia. Andy has personally worked with dozens of Division I tennis players that receive scholarships at universities such as Stanford, Notre Dame, University of Georgia, Boston College, and his alma mater, Temple University. Andy was previously the private coach of Indian Davis Cup and top 200 ranked player Azil Saeed, as well as a part-time hitting partner for 11-time Grand Slam champion Lisa Raymond. He also worked extensively with Annie Lee, a Wimbledon junior singles runner-up in 2017, and currently ranked in the WTA top 50. His vision for the SVB Tennis Center and Wellness, his vision of the SVB Tennis and Wellness Center is to create a unique environment for racket sports enthusiasts at all levels. Our staff will develop a culture of learning based on the latest science of teaching and wellness. We will stay on the cutting edge of sports training and maintain the highest level of performance for all levels. Andy.
Good morning, everyone. I want to start by saying I'm not nearly as smooth as Senator Burgess, so I do have a script. He's good, very good. I'd like to thank the City of Zephyrhills and the Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to speak today on behalf of the Sarah Vandenberg Tennis and Wellness Center. We're certainly proud to be a member of this community. And thank you, Vicki, for your patience with my. Okay, so I want to start by telling a little bit of a story about how I got involved in this. So my partner, Pascal Collard in the business, he sends his regrets. He's in Europe right now, visiting family and hopefully recruiting for us. In 2017, he called me and he said, hey, I go by Andy, by the way. Andy, I have a project you might be interested in. It's in Zephyrhills, Florida. And I said, Zephyrhills, Florida. Okay, let me look that up. And I looked and I looked and I looked, and Zephyrhills, Florida was about this big on the map. So I said, okay, I'm going to come down and I'm going to take a look. And basically I saw dirt roads, a lot of pastures. I think Route 56 I don't think it was a dirt road, but it was close. And I said, tell me a little bit about this. Tell me what you're thinking. And he's telling me about an elite tennis center in the middle of Zephyrhills. And I didn't quite get it. And like a lot of people, I was skeptical about how we could succeed. And then I went to his house, and at his house, he had all these projects and all these easels full of all the development and his vision. And I started to get it. And I came down in 2019, and there was all this development, and there were Pulte communities, and there were Caribbean communities, and there were plans for all these different communities. And 56 was now 4 lanes and development on each side. And it was like, when I first came down, it was $100,000 homes, and then it was $300,000 homes, and now they're $400,000 and $500,000 homes. So I started to get it. So in 2019, I signed on, and we're basically 2 years in. Our grand opening was October 17th of 2020. And here we are. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to present. We opened a business in 2020, right in the dead center of the pandemic. And I'm super proud of how far we've come. I hope we're doing a great service to the legacy of Sarah Vandenberg. And we continue to expand and do the things we can to make this community great and to make Sarah Vandenberg a healthy part of that community. SVB was created to offer a variety of sports and wellness options for the residents of Zephyrhills and the Tampa Bay area. We've expanded our outreach both nationally and internationally, and the goal is to be the top sports destination in the United States. We're very grateful to Florida Sports Coast, who has been our partner since the beginning and have pushed us, and we appreciate them so very much. Our facility. So we have 11 tennis courts, we have 4 padel courts, we have 4 beach volleyball courts that convert to beach tennis, 8 pickleball courts. All of our courts are lit, so for night play, or sometime of the year, it's early morning play. Currently, we have 65 full-time academy players that are juniors, 18 and under. We have a future padel academy and a beach volleyball academy. Right, beach volleyball is one of the fastest growing NCAA sports. There are 90 teams and 50 of those teams are Division I. So that's really a big push for us to get that going as quickly as possible. In 2023, we have 4 additional tennis courts that we're going to put right on our site. It's going to be, when are we starting that? First quarter, second quarter, first quarter of 2023. So we're excited to bring our total courts to 15 for tennis. The next slide. So this is some of the things that we do as activities other than our regular programming, galas for nonprofits, spa weekends. We're doing a dog show right around Halloween. We do a Halloween party, member appreciation events. We have some international tournaments. We have a men's pro tournament scheduled for March of next year. And we're very proud to be hosting the Florida Senior Games for the next 3 years. We'll be doing pickleball, padel, and tennis. Brings probably between 300 and 500 athletes to our area, which is great. You can do the next slide, thanks. We've partnered with local businesses in an effort to build a community within our community. As you can see, the list of are many recognizable local industries, and partnering with these people brings us value and brings credibility to our programs. So we're happy to have them. Some of the other services that we provide, and I can assure you, we're always trying to expand our offerings. We have the racket sports as discussed. We also have a beautiful fitness center. We have a cryotherapy chamber, massage, salt room, IV solutions, and bio and neurofeedback. So we're constantly trying to stay on the cutting edge of wellness, and these are some of the offerings that we have. So the big news is the economic impact. And so, as many of you know, people are moving to Florida. It's not news. And the home purchases and the rentals, we've been a part of that. We have over 12 families that have relocated to the Zephyrhills area to be a part of our academy just in the last 18 months. Hotel rooms when we have special events. This past weekend, we had 120 juniors at a USTA tennis tournament. I'm sure we probably did over 60 room nights at hotels. People were coming from all over the country and the other side of Florida, all over Florida. And of course, gas purchases and eating at local restaurants. I think it's clear that SVB is adding to the economic development of the community through these events. We're proud to call ourselves an international destination, and our coaches, for instance, come from different countries and backgrounds such as France, Morocco, Sudan, Malaysia, Scotland, Italy, and of course the US. And I'm one of the 4 US coaches. So 10 coaches on staff full-time, and the rest are from different nationalities. We have an even broader outreach with our academy players. Their home countries include Canada, Mexico, Belgium, France, Israel, the islands of St. Martin, Jamaica, Bermuda, the Cayman Islands, Germany, Malaysia, China, Brazil, England, Colombia, Argentina, the Czech Republic, and Puerto Rico. We've also had athletes on the biggest stages of tennis. We've had players play at Wimbledon, at the US Open, and also at the French Open. So we're getting on the international stage and we're getting recognized. Some of the other things that we're doing, aside from the tennis center, last week we opened the Well at SVB. It's a 3,400 square foot apartment living complex right across the parking lot at the Simons property. It's designed to house individual student athletes as well as entire families. It was funded at $8 million by private investors, and it features the highest level of air filtration, water filtration, and was built with a low to zero VOC, which is volatile organic compounds. I learned that last week. Basically, it's the healthiest living we could provide. So they spared no expense. There's 29 units. We can house up to 100 athletes at capacity. 19 two-bedroom and 2-bath units, 7 one-bedroom, 1-bath units, and 3 studio apartments. All the units are furnished and include washer and dryer, oven and stove, microwave, coffee maker, TV, and high-speed internet. The investors spared no expense in developing the state-of-the-art building. To date, it has been challenging to recruit outside of our immediate area because we didn't have housing opportunities. And now with this, we do have those housing opportunities. So walking distance right from the center. So it's great. Pardon me? November 3rd. Yes, thank you very much. On November 3rd, we're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony attended by I guess State Senator Burgess and Wilton Simpson as well, right? Everyone is invited. We'll take as many as we can get. Thank you for that. 10 a.m. Thank you. In addition to the well, our development plan on the Simons property is an indoor multi-purpose facility. There'll be 3 tennis courts which can convert to pickleball, volleyball, basketball, and other multiple sports. The building can also be used for special events and public gatherings. This building is 2024. Okay, scheduled for building in 2024. There are not very many indoor facilities in Florida, so we're going to be one of 3. There's one at the USA National Campus. There's one at IMG Academies, which is down in Bradenton, and we'll be the 3rd. So we're really excited about that. This gives the Zephyrhills community an all-weather option for sports and events. The last one is the multifamily and single-family housing. The development of this housing community will bring dozens more families into the Zephyrhills area, which will in turn bring more economic growth. The phases are basically based on building the apartment complex first, and then followed by the multi-purpose facility. And then the last phase would be probably in 2025, the multifamily housing. So we're excited about that. We're trying to bring people and all the community together. The Lennar property having a direct contact to SVB is going to help things for us, which we're really excited about. So we're really grateful for the city of Zephyrhills and the support they've given us along the way. We appreciate how the community has embraced SVB, and we will do everything in our power to bring the highest level of service to our customers. Our goal will remain to make Zephyrhills proud to have SVB as a part of the community. So thank you very much. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Sir? Okay, here we go. And here we go. No, it's a great question. So padel is a racket sport played in a confined area. There's glass walls as well as cage fencing. And you can actually play it a little bit similar to racquetball, where you can play off the sides. It was developed in Mexico in 1950, got very popular in South America, went to Europe where it got exploded, and now it's the fastest growing sport in the world. So yeah, so we have 4 courts. No, it is not highlight. Well, you can bet on almost anything now, but it's not highlight. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Andy. Zephyrhills invested in the tennis center as an economic driver, and I think, as you heard, they're doing what the plan was, which was to provide an economic impact to Zephyrhills and to put Zephyrhills on the map. And I think they're doing that. Our next speaker is Paul Conley. He's the District Executive Director for the YMCA. Paul is the District Executive Director for Plant City, Zephyrhills, and Dade City communities, and has been with the YMCA for the past 10 years in various roles. He's married to his wife, Jenna, and they have a 2-year-old golden retriever named Champ. Paul.
All right, thanks everybody for having me. Excited to be here. So when I thought about what I wanted to talk about with all of you, I wanted to start by sharing what I believe the YMCA is to a community. And this picture here was not in Zephyrhills, transparently. It was in Plant City a couple years ago, but You'll understand why it's important as we talk. This is at a first grade classroom in one of the lower income schools in Plant City. I had the opportunity to speak at the school 2 years ago. And I've talked about the importance of safety around water, drowning prevention, and the importance of the work the Y does to teach kids to swim for the last decade, especially when we're here in Florida. And I was in front of the classroom of first graders, and I asked them, who's been to the Y? They all raised their hand, excited. Well, who learned to swim at the Y? And a couple hands went up, and then this one little boy in the front row goes, if I were to jump in the water, I would sink to the bottom. And he said it so matter-of-factly that it was just that's what would happen. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It just stopped me what I was doing. And what we did that day was, there was part of a CEOs in Schools program. And I said to him, we can't allow that to happen. That's something we have to fix right here. Now, a lot of the problems in our community, we can kind of look to other people to help solve them. But with this one, it was the why. We have to do this problem solving. So we actually taught the entire first grade class to learn to swim at no cost through the partnership with the school and some private donors that came together and said, we're just not going to accept that in our community. And that's what the why is to the greater community. And what we just met was our board last week, and we said we're going to do that same thing here in Zephyrhills. We're going to make sure that no kid drowns because we didn't do everything we could to teach and learn to swim. The Y's focus, pretty simple for those that have been around. The Y's been around 175 years, not necessarily here in Zephyrhills, but around the world. And our focus has been pretty consistent throughout that time. We're here to help and serve youth, help be a leader in the community in health, and then provide the missing link in whatever is missing in the given community through our social responsibility programs. I want to start with youth. So when I was tying this into the economic impact, there is $1 billion lost in the United States due to childcare issues. And those of you with kids fully understand you have your day planned, what you're going to do at work that day, and you get a call at 9:30 in the morning that your child's sick, or that the camp staff or the site childcare site didn't have enough staff. So they have to close their program. And it really shifts the entire business for the whole day. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of is what we do for 10 weeks during the summer. Schools do the hard work 42 weeks out of the year, but then, the kids get a break, the parents don't. So we step up to the plate with a fun, engaging period of time from, the end of school year for that next 10 weeks. And we provide a program that it engages kids physically and mentally and encourages them to continue growing throughout the summer. Summer reading loss is one of the biggest problems we face for children. And we incorporate that into our program. So to ensure that when they go back to school in the fall, they're more prepared than when they left in May. And then there's some of the fun things. I alluded to learn to swim, but we have swimming for all ages. We have 70-year-olds learning to swim at our Ys. It's an astounding thing. And then to me, the most impactful program that can happen is our youth sports programs. Youth sports teaches you so much about life. You learn to win, learn to lose, sometimes not as gracefully, but you learn to work as a team and you learn to rely on others, and you really get to have some of your best moments. Watching a six-year-old make his first basket in a game is something that's hard to beat. And it's something that kind of happens at the Y every week. And it's something that makes me really proud of the work we do because, people, it's a lot of things that go on during the normal week. But when you can come and watch your child succeed at something on a Saturday morning, it really changes the way you're able to lead your life. Healthy living. So the first number I gave you was $1 billion. The second number I'm going to give you is 225 billion. That is the amount of lost productivity based on health issues that arise within the American worker. So to me, the why has to be every community's proactive health provider. We can't wait for people to get sick. We have to be at the forefront and leading our communities in ensuring that health is at the forefront for everyone. And we do this. So we have a few signature programs. I mean, I think everybody here kind of understands the general, cardio, group exercise and weightlifting programs that we have, the weight loss programs. But a couple of the ones that I'm most proud of are Live Strong. We offer a free cancer survivorship program for those that are battling through cancer. And really what it does is it allows the entire person to come to the Y. They meet in groups, so they're able to kind of help each other mentally and physically. But, it's amazing the things we take for granted that these folks don't have. There's one person that was in our program not long ago that could not lift her arm to reach for the can of soup in the pantry. Through this program, she was able to get that back. And you just don't know how fortunate you are if you have your health until you don't. And then what we do to keep our seniors active. So we have a litany of programs, and one of them is our fall prevention program. So when we think about getting ahead of health crises, we know that the older you get, the more susceptible you are to a fall. And then the more susceptible you are to being injured when you fall. So we've created a program and we partner with a few different entities to create a program that allows you to be able to withstand that fall, to gain that flexibility and balance, and really be able to be a healthier individual as you age more gracefully. And then finally, this is the thing that separates the why. What we do in the community. So I start with our open doors. So in Zephyrhills alone, we'll provide over $130,000 worth of subsidy to those who cannot afford to use the Y. Like we just said, health should not be something that is only for select individuals with different economic levels. That's what we believe at the Y. So I go out and I talk to groups, and we have private and public donors that make sure that the Y is able to provide scholarships for the single family that can't afford to put their child through a summer camp program, for the child to learn to swim at no cost. And everybody knows the different economic struggles we're facing right now as a society. But when it's a difference of $65 to put dinner on the table for a week or to put your child through swim lessons, sometimes you make the obvious decision and put food on the table. We feel that it's our job every year to make sure that those funds are available so that families have the opportunity to be able to use the programs and services of the Y. Volunteerism. This is actually what the Y was built on 175 years ago. We were built and run by volunteers. It was decades before the first paid staff was actually involved in the Y. And we're still led by volunteers. We're a nonprofit, and we have a volunteer board at our corporate level that helps us strategically plan for the next 20 years of problems and challenges that we face. But here locally, what we've been able to do since January is build out a board of folks in this room that are here to help and the Y's mission expand so that we can ensure that we're advancing youth and advancing our community and being a leader in community health. And this is our board right here. We grew from, it was kind of fun. About 8 months ago, we had a board of 3. And we sat around, it was a nice little meeting, but the first thing we said is we gotta get the community engaged. And we did just that. And we just had our first board retreat 2 weeks ago. And we talked about things that I've already alluded to today. How do we dare to say, hey, we're not going to allow any child to drown in our community? How can we provide swim lessons to every first grader in our community? We started asking those questions. We don't have all the answers quite yet. If you have the answers, let me know. But we're working on those things. Those are the big picture things that we're working on. Where are we going as a community how do we become the leader of health? So that means, coming to Billy and the city and the chamber and this group and saying, we want to be the leader of health in this community. Let's do it together. And this is just a slide that shows what we do when it comes to community support. So the red number that's far higher is what we give out in subsidy. So when you give to the Y, you actually give, for every dollar you give, about $1.50 goes back out into the community. And that directly stays here in Zephyrhills and supports those who need it most. Where are we going? I'm already alluded to some of these. The one I haven't hit on is we're in an aging building. If you're a Y member, building's kind of tired and kind of old. We're hoping that within the next year, 2, 3 years, that we can totally rehab that building and make it so that the growth that Zephyrhills is seeing is represented within its Y. Enhancing teen and family programming. One of the things that we're currently missing is the Y is for the entire family. The problem is that mom goes this way, dad goes this way, kids go this way. So we want to be the convener of the family, where families are doing things together that are healthy and provide positive results for the entire family. And then finally, and this is where some of you might raise your hand or talk to me after, we want to continue to grow our board. We've been very, very, very intentional about not just bringing anybody onto the board. We've wanted to bring select individuals that can help us do these big things we want to do. We're at 10 now. We want to get to 15 because that's where we see what this community is going to need. And that's really it for me. I'll take any questions. All right, that means I nailed it. Cool, thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for what you and the Y do for the community, what you provide. I personally didn't realize all the programs that were there. It is exciting to know that the Y started in a storefront in the early 90s here in town. And I've seen the plans that they're talking about, the improvements that hopefully will occur in the next couple of years. Pretty good things are coming through the Y, so thank you. Next up, we have David Engel. He's the Economic Growth Director for Pasco County. Mr. Engel has over 15 years as a municipal planning director and transit-oriented development manager. An additional 10 years were spent on Wall Street serving as a senior research analyst in New York City, specializing in transportation, public-private finance, and energy technology systems. David has been Pasco County's Economic Growth Director for over the past 4 years. Mr. Engel received a Master of City and Regional Planning from Rutgers University as a graduate of George Washington University. He's a member and a David is a member and a certified planner through the American Institute of Certified Planners. Mr. Engel.
Good morning, everybody, and I wanted to thank the Chamber for inviting me today to the largest city in Pasco County, not only in population, but in private capital investment. So I'm not a big slide reader, and it is an economic summit, so I'd like to talk about economics for a moment. Not to dwell on Federal Reserve policy, but and it's always hindsight with those people, but they're not only raising interest rates, they're sucking liquidity out of the banking and the capital markets. What the Fed's most powerful tool is, which they never speak about, is their balance sheet. When they want to stimulate the economy, they inject cash into the banking system and buy back the bonds, the high yield, the high quality bonds. So that drives the dollar down, and it makes liquidity very, very pervasive. So money goes to risk, money goes to capital investment, and they kept the policy too easy, too long, and now they're trying to catch up because inflation is out of the genie bottle. And they're not only raising interest rates, but they're injecting bonds back off their balance sheet. That's why yields are so high, because there's so many bonds available in our banking system, and they're taking the cash back in. So lenders become risk adverse, and interest rates go higher, and the dollar goes stronger, because when the dollar goes strong, we're exporting inflation overseas to other countries with other currencies. So that's what's going on now. But we are going to go through a stress test here in the local economy, but I have to tell you, we're very strong. And I just wanted to highlight how strong the United States is, how strong Tampa Bay is, and how strong Zephyrhills and Pasco County are. Consumer confidence, as you can see, is still at a relatively high rate. The consumer is still spending, and I'll tell you why in a second. They feel pretty robust about their future. And even though we had a shellacking in 2020 with COVID, the economy is still strong from the consumer standpoint. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, business confidence is a little lower. And so are especially home builders and industries that are interest rate sensitive. So you can see that business confidence has been going down, and it will continue to go down for probably another 2 quarters. So what happens is businesses become more cautious. They suspend hiring, they suspend capital investment, and they don't really have a clear horizon. And most businesses that make big capital investments have a 10-year time horizon. If they can't see around the corner, they just sit on their hands and retain cash and liquidity. Next one, please. New residential sales are still running along at a pretty good pace. We had that big COVID boost here in our area, and certainly you can see we had tremendous amount of residential sales growth. But now that we've had kind of a mean reversion and we're basically running along a straight line, that's been here in the area since the late teens. Go ahead, please. Next slide. This is now we're getting into some real important data. This is the Federal Reserve St. Louis Bank. They keep all the records for the country. And you can see here for Pasco County, our unemployment rate is 2.9%. And back at 2 months ago, it was down to 2.4%, spiked up to 3%. Now it's down to 2.9. Florida, the state of Florida is one of the lowest unemployment rates in the entire country, 2.7%. But if you look at the chart, when we had those boom years, you know, the roaring 2000s, unemployment got down to the level it is now. So we are really at full employment now here in the county. Next slide, please. So let me tell you a little bit about inflation. We know we're feeling it. You know, margarine costs are up 43% in a year. You know, you go anywhere and you're spending more money out of pocket. One of the biggest problems is that if you look at the shipping costs, which really reflect the supply chain bottlenecks, the 2 upper lines, those are Greater China and Greater India. And industry has found out that doing the offshoring for cheap labor is no longer paying off, because as Dr. Stovall pointed out, transportation is a big expense here for the local consumer. Well, transportation is a big expense for the local importer. So, and you can see the U.S. Rates are much lower. So what's happening now is we're having a reverse of globalization. We're becoming more regionalized. We have reshoring coming back into the United States, coming here into Tampa Bay. We have supply chain becoming domestic and not geopolitically unstable situations where we can't get vital supplies. So we have a rationalization of our economy for the better, in my opinion. Next slide, please. And this is the rub. Why is the consumer so upbeat? You know, you read the papers, you want to just basically stop reading the papers. Well, here's the bottom line. Right now, there's 10.7 million job openings here in the United States, and there's only 5.7 million people unemployed. So if all those unemployed people got jobs, we're still short 5 million jobs. So what are we doing about it? Well, we're upscaling. We're upskilling people. We're going into robotics, using artificial intelligence to be able to bring down the costs and make up for the lack of labor here in the country. Next slide, please. So let's look at our economy. Yes, we're going to be stress tested, but we're very resilient. We got battered with COVID. So since fiscal year 2020 to now, fiscal year 22, which was the end of September for our fiscal year, we've had a 291% increase in incentives. And we'll talk about incentives in a moment. And the board and the board has been very well, those are excuse me, my mistake. Jobs created through incentives are up 291%. We also have projected annual gross county product contribution. That's what we have. An economic project comes in, it contributes to the local economy. The way we measure that is using InPlan. It's an input-output model, and it basically has localized and state data, and we can actually model out and calculate the benefits of any specific project. So we get direct benefits. We get indirect benefits, that's business to business. We get induced benefits. That's, as Dr. Stovall pointed out, rising gasoline sales, buying houses, that's the consumer. And we're growing at a rapid pace in that area. And our square footage over year for 2 years is 282% increase. But this is the important factor. The amount of money that the Board of County Commissioners has awarded in those 2 years for those wonderful numbers is only up about 1%. So we're much more cost effective and prudent delivering public dollars to the private marketplace. We're using a lot of back end financing tools like ad valorem tax abatements. And we are also targeting the amount of money and where we spend it now. Not like when I first got here about 4.5 years ago. We were basically incentivizing businesses at $40 to $60 a square foot. And now it's under $10 a square foot. So the amount of money going out is coming down so we can spread it out and do more things, but we're really getting traction. Next slide, please. So, yeah, we're slowing down, but I think we need to rationalize a little bit. So right now you can see our single family homes are down year over year from last year. But as through the end of August, it's there's 5,400 basically single family building permits here in the county. And I looked at the September numbers, we're near 6,000. So we have a run rate right now to exceed 8,000 building permits. And I don't think we're going to make it. I think it's going to be about 7,500 to 7,800 single family building permits, but do the math. Todd was doing the math, 3 times 3, 3 times 4 times 7,500, 8,000. You can see how our population is starting to roll up. And last year we had a record number of single family building permits, 9,800 units. So when Todd discusses 2035, we're having the same discussion in Pasco County's planning division and our economic growth division. We're looking at 2035, 800,000 people. That's a staggering number. But when we're fully built out, and it's going to take probably to the 2050 area, we're going to have over 1 million people here in Pasco County. That's big business. We're going to exceed Hillsborough County. But more importantly, we're becoming a balanced community. If you understood, how the mosaic of balanced smart growth is occurring, you'd be very satisfied and very excited about our future. Next slide, please. So even though we've had some moderation in our building permits, our planning pipeline is exploding. Right now, we have almost 90 MPUDs, as our master plan unit developments, under review in Pasco County. That's Starkey Ranch, that's 2 Rivers. I mean, huge projects, and they just are, we're really backlogged. We can't even keep up with all the work. Our turnaround time now is 157 days to review 1 MPUD plan because of the intricacies and the intensive labor and professional attention they garner. Our site plan developments or site plan applications are up tremendously. Rezoning and conditional use is about the same. But as you can see, the pipeline is very robust. Next slide, please. So let's kind of change gears. Penny for Pasco. It's up for renewal this year by referendum. And it is extremely important. And I want to highlight how important it is. Because I'm a county employee, I can't encourage you to vote for the penny for Pasco, but I can tell you the facts. The facts are that since the penny for Pasco was originated in 2012, the Board of County Commissioners in 2015 said, well, we need an Office of Economic Growth. We need to have economic development associated with the penny for Pasco. So economic development and growth in Pasco County only gets 9 cents of every dollar that's collected through the penny, 9 cents. And we've done tremendous things with that 9 cents. So the board has initiated and approved using penny funds to stimulate and incentivize growth over 9 million square feet in 8 years. And we've actually created through the penny almost 24,000 new jobs. I mean, those are big numbers. And the rate of return on that is for every dollar of penny that went out the door for the last 8 years, the local economy and the tax roll gets back $18. If your IRAs can do that, you'd be all smiling today. Next slide, please. So how are we spending the money? We're very, very economical with, we are fiduciaries, we are stewards of your trust. If you look at that pie chart on the right, that purple is 75% is directly infused into the local economy through infrastructure that supports job creation and ad valorem expansion, and also industry support. And my operation, okay, we're the stewards, we're the compliance people for the penny. My office's administrative overhead is only 2.7%. We have a very low, high efficiency operation. So we actually provide the oversight for over $70 million worth of public projects. We do all the compliance on the agreements that the Board of County Commissioners reviews. We also write and draft the agreements, and we help the Pasco EDC negotiate deals. And more importantly, we've broadened our spectrum of support. We spend about $3 million every year for workforce training and development now here in the county. Next slide, please. That is our active project list. And I want to let you know, if you want to have this slideshow, please tell me, give me your business card and we'll have it emailed out to you. Just wanted to tout our record keeping. When I got here, we had very basic record keeping now. Now all of our penny for Pasco projects, all of the board's incentives are based on a bottom-up reporting system. Each project has its own workbook, and it reports up to a real-time dashboard. So if you were to call me up today and say, I want to know exactly where our dollars are being spent and how they're being spent and where we're at, I could produce a report and send it right out to you. It's updated monthly and sometimes real time. So I can't go through every project today, but we have an exciting diversified base of projects. We have the Metler Toledos, the Touchpoint Medicals, those big important businesses coming here in our community. We have mixed use developments and infrastructure developments that are producing tens of thousands of jobs. So I just wanted to highlight about three projects just to give you kind of a sense of how the Board of County Commissioners focuses on economic growth and development in these new projects. Next slide, please. So this is a very interesting project. This is located at Overpass in Old Pasco Road. This property was a 100-acre spray field for sanitary sewer tertiary treatment. It didn't pay any taxes. We had a lot of residential interest in that property, but the Board of County Commissioners showed a level of discipline and understanding. And they said the best vision for this property is going to be job creation. So my office went out, we got a $3 million state grant, no local fund match required, job creation grant. And we essentially took that 100-acre sanitary sewer facility. We took all the decommissioned sanitary sewer infrastructure out, regraded the property, did environmental cleanup, and created a development-ready property using state funds. And today we have a 880,000 square foot business park, approximately 4 buildings. The first building is going vertical right now. And that will generate over 1,500 jobs. So here it is. We had a piece of property, didn't pay taxes. We put it on the tax roll. We got a developer and an arm's length transaction to buy the property from the county at $15,000 more than the third party appraisal on the property. And it's going to create 1,500 new jobs. Now, the Board of County Commissioners did incentivize this project. Next slide, please. We gave $3.7 million to support the project for the first 400,000 square feet, but it's leveraging another 480,000 square feet. So if you look at it conservatively, for every dollar the board is spending, you get $13 back. But because of the leveraging effect on the balance of the park, the ROR on this thing, or ROI, is going to be over $20. So it's a 2,000% return. So incentives aren't basically welfare for corporations. They're investments in our future. This project, I absolutely love this. This is a Pasco Economic Development Council initiative. This was the largest redevelopment project in Tampa Bay when it came in, and in the county history. There's a Super Target building that was over at the Suncoast in 54. The Pasco Economic Development Council attracted Santander Bank. They are one of the top 10 banks in Europe, and they have a consumer lending facility there. They came in and they renovated this 115,000 acre building, and they're hiring 875 new employees. And from what I understand, they'll go up over 900 new jobs. The ROI on this thing, for every dollar that the county spent, we're getting $617 back. This is the highest leverage deal that I've ever seen. And that's really what we're doing now. So this redevelopment and taking old buildings and making them different is starting to happen now in Pasco. And it will happen here, especially on the US 301 corridor south. We have some projects that we're working now. The third project I wanted to highlight is the Moffitt Cancer and Research Center. This is a game-changing project. The county will never look the same once this project gets momentum, and it is getting momentum. So the Moffitt Cancer Center, 776 acres in central Pasco at the Ridge Road Extension and the Suncoast, and they're going to be building approximately, it said that's off their website, but they've downsized the project to 16 million square feet. Reason being, of the 776 acres, they only have about 555 acres buildable because of the wetlands. And the project itself will annually generate and inject $1.9 billion a year in a local economy. That's the first phase of development, not even the entire project. The penny for Pasco was used for an incentive for this project, $25.7 million. And the place will generate, their estimate is 14,500 new jobs. I think that it'll be near close to 30,000 new jobs based on the mix of activity there. It's not only a cancer research facility and hospital, but it's also going to be a partnership building process where they attract biotech companies and other pharmaceutical companies into the park. And there'll be hotels and retail and other activities. So on the first phase of development, which was 1.4 million square feet, for every dollar the county spends, they get $18 back. Well, Dr. Hu, of the guy that runs Moffitt, he's accelerated the project and he's increased the first phase from not 1.4 million square feet, but 2.5 million square feet. We just met with them last week, and they're breaking ground this January on the infrastructure, and they're going vertical by the end of 2023. 500,000 square foot of buildings will be CO'd by the end of 25. So we have other projects. We have, obviously, you probably heard about Avalon Park, Wesley Chapel, which is right adjacent to Zephyrhills. On County Road 54, it'll be a place-making, mixed-use, urbanized environment, residential, job creation, a litany of activities for the local homeowners to go enjoy. So our employment centers are basically building up it's kind of a busy map, but that's the map of the county. You'll notice two dots kind of on your left side. That's where the Moffett development is and some other stuff going on, which unfortunately they're NDA protected. So I can't speak about it specifically. And then you see an agglomeration of dots kind of in a right middle side. That's State Road 52 and I-75. That area between Bellamy Brothers and moving east to Murata will have 15 to 17 million square feet of industry and office coming in. The board has approved a lot of it already, and groundbreaking is within, probably in Pasco Town Center, which is almost 4.8 million square feet of industry and office. They're breaking ground in about 2 months, 3 months, maybe at the longest. So what's our pipeline? 47 million square feet of projects we're working on. That's projects the board has approved, projects where there's engineers and attorneys and landowners working with the Pasco EDC or working with our office. And that's a huge pipeline. That's 78,000 new jobs. So you think about it and you say, my gosh, that's a city. That's more than a city. Well, it's not enough, because the Board of County Commissioners commissioned a study by the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, and to become balanced, meaning one job available for every one employed person in our workforce, we need 150,000 jobs. So we're a little over halfway there. Our target for the 150 is 2050. I won't be here, but I hope to be able to set the foundation of this great trip to become a balanced community and a balanced county. So when we become balanced, we reduce trips on the road. And we're going in the right direction. And so we had a big uptick in people commuting out of the county. Most of our labor force worked elsewhere. But I want to tell you today, right now, only 36% of our workers are leaving the county. And if we can upscale these people and get them jobs in the county, these 36%, these people are going to save 8 to 10 hours of driving a week. What would anybody here object to 8 to 10 hours of free time to devote to your family, to your interests, to your hobbies, to your health? This is what quality of life is, and this is what we're working on. Okay, so last slide. The future of incentives. Some people say, well, the place is booming. Why do you need to spend money on incentives? It's because if you didn't spend money on incentives, all you get is residential and strip commercial. That's where the booming is, because the return on landowners flipping. You can get, garden apartments are going for, 200,000 an acre. I'm just speaking out of hand, but industrial land is going for 80,000. So what do you think the property owner wants to do? And what do you think the development community wants to do? They want to monetize as much as they can. So they're not going into the industrial. So when we spend money, public money on incentives, we are kind of controlling the dialogue of what's going to go on, what's the discussions we're having. Are we going to create jobs? Are we going to provide stable, low ad valorem tax rate here in the county and in the city? So that's our goal. So I hope and I think that the board is really opened up to becoming much more creative with the penny. If we get this penny renewed, we can start having very serious policy discussions about commercial corridor redevelopment. It's not one medicine that serves the entire county. We are a diverse community. We have old urbanized traffic corridors where there's old commerce that is no longer relevant or viable. We have green fields with new developments. So we have to provide a framework of providing the tools to serve all of the county and all of the different geographic areas. We need a balance between housing and jobs. We need workforce housing. Developers want to come in and they want to increase their densities and get more, more houses on a piece of land. Well, how about some workforce housing? My job isn't to promote low and moderate housing. We do have other advocates in our county government and in our local city governments, but we need the workforce. People that work in Pasco County should be able to afford to live in Pasco County. We need business parks with amenities. You know, years ago, my generation, I'm a baby boomer, we bought things, we went to work, we went home. Now the younger generation, they want to buy experiences. They want to be in a workplace that provides them with the amenities that they need to socialize, to collaborate, to take care of their health, you know. So the bottom line here is businesses really don't like remote work. I know that's taboo, but most businesses now are trying to get people back in the office. And to do that, to get our contemporary labor force back in the office, we need childcare on site. We need restaurants, we need pocket parks, we need places, housing, so the retailers can have a 24/7 type of opportunity for their market. And the small and medium-sized business, and might I add, 80% of the businesses in Pasco are under 25 employees. They can't afford all these amenities. Medler Toledo has it, Touchpoint Medical may have it. So we have to start integrating these amenities in these parks. And that's where maybe some smart money incentivization will be very good, because we could serve these small and medium-sized businesses. We have to continue to target infrastructure investment. There's been a lot of talk about, hey, why are we building the roads after the development? Anybody having that conversation? So the Board of County Commissioners has been doing a lot. You may not be aware of it. We have spent hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure the infrastructure is in place before the development. We have the Moffett and the Angeline MPUD and the west central side of the county. Over $200 million worth of infrastructure is going in before the concurrently with the development. The Board of County Commissioners just approved a big project over at I-75 and 52. And the developer's putting in about $78 million worth of infrastructure there. And that infrastructure will be in before the first CO. So we're starting to do some more regionalized improvements ahead of the development. And might I add, the county itself has hundreds of millions of dollars worth of infrastructure going in now. I breezed over here to Zephyrhills today. I didn't have to deal with, we have a reverse diamond there finally. Traffic flows great. We're building Ridge Road all the way out to Route 41 to take the heat off of 54 and 52. And I know that the Commissioner Oakley's been working on 301 plans and 98 plans, and things are happening. So if you have a little bit of congestion, just realize that congestion is our economy. Those are people going to work. Those are people living their lives. Those are people that are here. So anyway, sorry about that. I could talk for 20 hours about this stuff. Any questions? Yes, sir. That's a good question. That deal is still alive. Their incentives are still activated. I think they had to make some type of progress on the site, so they drove a tractor and left it on the property. So they're still active. I think Raymond James wants to consider what their options are. But might I say this? If that property were to revert back to the Wiregrass Ranch, because they have right of first refusal if Raymond James goes away, there'll be a project there in a heartbeat. That's one of the best pieces of property in the county. Yes, sir.
And beyond, all the this housing going in there, single, apartment. Where are these kids going to play? Why can't money for land? Really land. Soccer kids, football kids, baseball diamonds.
Pickleball. So fantastic question. So every time, well, first of all, let's back up macro. Penny for Pasco. Penny for Pasco, excuse me, builds things. We don't pay for people's salaries or operating costs. So with the Board of Ed, Penny for Pasco builds all the new schools, all the new expansions. We have an ELAM program that buys parkland and improves that parkland. And when we're fully built out, our master plan for the county shows about 35% of the county will be parks and open space. We're not paving over the county. So every time a big project comes in, our Parks and Recreation people assess it. The Board of County Commissioners has gotten hundreds of acres of parkland since I've been here in these projects. So it is actively pursued, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And I'll reiterate the importance of the Penny for Pasco, not only for Pasco County and the school board, but for Zephyrhills, and a lot of the projects that you heard today that we're doing are funded by Penny for Pasco. So like David, I can't tell you to vote for it, but I can tell you what it's used for. We also use David quite a bit when we're looking at projects of, do we rezone from industrial to residential or residential back to industrial? He gives us the economic impact of what those developments will have on the city. So thank you for that support. Next up, we have two presenters. Turner Arbor, he's a senior economic development manager for Pasco EDC. Turner is responsible for the business retention and expansion program, Workforce Connect, and the international program at Pasco EDC. His responsibilities include working with existing industry in Pasco County to assist with retention and expansion, workforce resources, and international businesses. He's responsible for the development of the Workforce Connect website, a resource for employers, job seekers, and workforce providers. Turner's been working with Pasco's small businesses since 2010 in marketing and consumer sentiment analysis, and also serves on the Pasco Hernando Workforce Board of Directors. He holds a BS in Global Business from the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. We also have Sarah Alway, the Workforce Development Coordinator. Sarah provides support to Pasco's companies through the Workforce Connect platform, an award-winning initiative created to help local employers connect to local workforce resources to help build their pipelines of talent. She has previous experience managing nonprofit organizations and a passion for workforce development. She holds a BA in economics from West Virginia University and an MS in economic development from the University of Southern Mississippi. Turner, Sarah.
Good morning. It is a beautiful day in Pasco County. A little chilly, but still beautiful. I've been watching the temperatures, but on the bottom right, it's gone from 52 up to about 55 now, so it's getting warmer. Really happy to be here today. Thank you to the city. Thank you to the ZEDC Chamber for having us. This is one of my favorite events throughout the year to really find out what's going on over here in Zephyrhills. I wanted to start off, I'm going to do kind of big picture, the programs we offer, who we are at the Pasco EDC, and then Sarah's going to jump into some trends in the workforce on the east side of the county, but also the county as a whole. For those who don't know, and I think it's been mentioned a couple of times today, but the Pasco EDC, the Pasco Economic Development Council, works to help the county grow, diverse, and stimulate the economy so that we maintain a balance in the county with the jobs, so that we're not all heavily into one area, and that when economic times change a little bit, we're able to weather them in a better way. We are a nonprofit. We work closely both with the private sector and the Pasco County government. We've been around since 1987, and you can see our mission and vision up there, which sorry to the people online. So here's some of the things that we do, and it really spans from new businesses all the way up to large companies who are coming into the county from some of the projects that David mentioned. But the common theme through all of that is workforce. And we really need to put a big emphasis on what we're doing to, retain people in Pasco County from, not driving to neighboring counties to work, to get off the road a little bit more by providing them quality opportunities here in the county. But some of the other things we also help with, exporting, expansion, data, being a resource to businesses of any size. and entrepreneurship, which is a big one. We operate 3 entrepreneur facilities, incubators across the county, Dade City, Wesley Chapel, and Newport Richey, for anybody who wants to start any type of business, from a food business, a tech business, business services, professional services, whatever it is, we have resources there to help. And this kind of talks about a little bit what Dave was talking about. Since 1995, the number of jobs that have been created due to companies that we've assisted, square footage, and also total investment. It's a lot of money, but it continues to grow each year as more jobs and businesses come to Pasco. We really, part of that diversification and balance is focused on 6 target industries that we really look for. These are those target industries, and they're aligned with the state's target industries as well. You'll see some familiar ones up there that align with the projects that David mentioned just a minute ago. In logistics, distribution, advanced manufacturing with companies like Mettler Toledo and Touchpoint Medical, aerospace, aviation, defense, like companies like True Simulation or ASC that build 3-story full motion flight simulators and train pilots here in Pasco County, as well as our large photonics industry through companies like Myopta and 26 that develop optic systems for both military applications and recreational applications. But you'll see life science is one of the big ones due to the Moffitt campus coming. You'll see a lot of, not only is healthcare our largest industry in the county, but the ancillary services that are around it in research development and medical device manufacturing all kind of factor into life sciences. And we're really excited to see how that continues to grow. And then high technology is an interesting one because people don't necessarily think of Pasco County as a tech hub, but technology runs through all the other 5 industries. From healthcare, Moffitt's, one of their biggest needs is going to be data scientists to go through all the information that they collect and make sense of it all. So high technology, IT, we have video game design companies in Pasco County. We have research firms, business analytics firms. So they're out there. They're just not always, up front and have the big billboards on the highways, but they're here. Go ahead. So moving a little bit into workforce. Workforce Connect is a program. It's a Penny for Pasco funded program. We've heard that a couple times today. And it works to do a number of things for local businesses. It was created because in our conversations with businesses, both existing and those looking to come to the area and small businesses, the question always centered back to where are my workers, where can I get them, and what are their needs and how can I attract them? So the program was born out of a task force 3.5 years ago now, and we spend a lot of time talking to employers, finding what their needs are, figuring out where their employees are coming from, what their employees are looking for, and we take that information and bring it to our local workforce development ecosystem, our colleges, our universities, our nonprofits, our technical schools, so that they know what the needs of employers are. We also connect employers to those local resources, because many times the business owners are working, as David mentioned, 85% are small businesses or under 25 employees, and they're working in their business. And they very rarely come up to see what's going on around them. So they don't know about the programs going on at PHSC. They don't know about AMP Skills, a manufacturing apprenticeship program. They don't know about Marchman Technical College or Wendell Corinne, with the great things that K-12 is doing. So we really try to bring those resources to them by meeting with them at least as many as we can within a year, and then make those connections, which is the namesake of the program. So, and there's a website, workforceconnectpasco.com. So for those companies that we don't get to see face-to-face each year, they can go there and self-serve and see all the resources available there on a map based on what industry they're in. Right. Okay, no, there's lunch ready. I don't want to stand between everybody and lunch. It's Chick-fil-A too, especially don't want to do that. So I already mentioned it is a Penny for Pasco program, and if it gets renewed, hopefully it'll continue to be a Penny for Pasco program. So now I think I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, and she can get into kind of the trends that we've been seeing in the county workforce development wise.
All right, thank you, Turner. Can you hear me okay on here? All right, great. Well, thank you everybody for having us here today. I'm super excited to be here. I'm new in this role, but I'm super excited to really get into workforce development with Turner at the Pasco EDC. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about Pasco County's overall workforce before going right into Zephyrhills workforce trends. So here in Pasco County, we have a growing workforce and we have a population of over 500,000 people, with about 250,000 of those people in the workforce. And believe it or not, we have about 50 people on average move to Pasco County each day. That's an incredible number, isn't it? It's not to Florida, it's not to Tampa Bay, that's specifically to Pasco County. And in order to support those incoming and existing Pasco County residents, we need to really focus on the demand for a growing number of quality jobs, as well as skills need training. And luckily, we have over 35,000 new jobs coming up in the next 10 years. And as David mentioned, it's probably going to be a lot more than that. Just about 14,000 of those are going to come from that Moffett project alone. So now we can talk a little bit about Zephyrhills. So Zephyrhills has a very strong workforce. The city has about 41% in the workforce, which is about the same as the county average. And when we take into consideration the greater Zephyrhills area, we're looking at a much greater population of over 100,000 and about 50% in the workforce. So that's more than the county average. We've also seen in the past year an employment increase of over 5%. And it's a little bit small, so I apologize, but it shows the average annual wages for the city of Zephyrhills. The greater Zephyrhills area is also very similar to this. We've seen wage increases between 9 and 10% just in the past year. That's amazing wage growth. Even since 2019 is when we've really seen that significant growth. So now let's talk a little bit about the occupations here in the city of Zephyrhills. So the number one occupation is office and admin support, with the most employed. We also see a lot of healthcare jobs, as you know, and education as well. Across all occupations, we see a total of over $46,000. And if you look at the bottom of that list, you can see some of the occupations that are a little bit fewer in employment are ones like life sciences and computer mathematics, arts design, protective services occupations, which includes manufacturing. Those are fewer in employment, but they're higher than that average wage or higher wage jobs. So that kind of gives us the opportunity to look into those jobs a little bit more and see what jobs we can add to increase this occupation diversity here. And we can't talk about jobs without talking about the training and education needed for those jobs. And that's what this graph shows here for the city of Zephyrhills. Across all levels of training, no matter what type of training a job requires, we're seeing a growth of about 2.3%. The fastest growing is jobs requiring a postgraduate degree, which is master's degree or higher at 2.9%. If you remember what I was talking about on the previous slide, these are going to be a lot of the jobs associated with life sciences, computer and mathematics, engineering, those types of jobs. We're also seeing the second fastest growing jobs require a 2-year degree or a certificate. And that's really amazing to see too, because we work with so many amazing workforce partners here at the Pasco EDC, one of them being Pasco County Schools. And you can go ahead to the next slide. As one of the largest employers, and they really help with increasing students' workforce development when they leave high school, so they can either immediately go into the workforce or go and pursue additional training or educational opportunities. We really focus on their career pathways programs, although the Pasco County Schools has a lot of other types of ways that they train their students as well. And the purpose of this program is to give them skills. So like I said, when they leave the workforce, they can graduate, they can choose to enter into the workforce or go on to that additional training and or education. Zephyrhills High School, you can go back for a second, sorry, you're good. Zephyrhills High School is just one school in the area in Zephyrhills that participates in this program. They offer 5 different career pathways and they're up there for you. And not one school is alike that offers these programs. And since Pasco County Schools offers school choice, this means that students that maybe live a little bit further away from Zephyrhills High School, but want to participate in one of these programs can choose to do so and choose to commute over there to get the kind of education and training they need. Okay. And another one of those types of schools that participates in career pathways is Kirkland Ranch Academy of Innovation. There's been a lot of talk about that recently. You might have heard of it. It's not in Zephyrhills, it's on Curly Road in Wesley Chapel, but that is pretty close to here. A lot of Zephyrhills students can and will choose to go to the school. If you haven't been there, I absolutely recommend you go and check it out. It's a huge school. They offer 10 amazing in-demand programs. And again, you can see the types up there. And they really looked at this closely to see what kind of jobs will these graduates want to go into? What kind of jobs does Pasco County need when they graduate? And this is what they came up with. Okay. And here's just some photos of the school from a tour we took a couple months ago. You can see a green room in the bottom right corner. That's their digital media program. And then a conceptualization of their auto maintenance program up there too, toward the middle. That's probably one of my favorite programs that I'm really excited to see what happens, because volunteers from the community are going to bring in their cars to let these high school students service them. So if you want some free work, maybe go contact them and see if you can get your car in there. And yeah, so Pasco County Schools really does a lot for our workforce. And so I wanted to touch on what Pasco EDC does as well as far as the Ready Sites program goes. And the Ready Sites program assesses and evaluates these large pieces of land for industrial development. One of them being in Zephyrhills Airport Industrial Park. We only have 5 of them left. We did have some others and the program is successful. So those are actually going out to other projects that are bringing in a lot of jobs, that will bring in a lot of jobs elsewhere in the county. But we do have one, it's over 400 acres in the Zephyrhills Airport Industrial Park. And it's going to have either an advanced manufacturing, logistics and distribution, or a defense, aerospace and aviation business, which will bring in a lot of really great jobs to the county. Okay. And now this is just a video that we did a few months ago, and it showcases 4 different types of jobs.
My name is John Thomas. I'm the director of photography.
Sorry.
If I could set up a little bit too, well,
Let me
for the
turn it down a little.
So a little bit about this video project. When we're out talking to employers, you know, they give us a list of needs of what they are. We go to our education partners and they say, well, we already have that program. And I say, well, how many students are in the program? And they'll say 5. And I go to an employer who has 500 people and they need just one employer needs 100 of them. They're like, well, there's a little mismatch there. The resource is there, but a lot of times the students don't know what's around them. I go to the Great American Teach-Ins and I say, what do you want to do when you graduate? And they say, I want to work at Publix, I want to work at McDonald's, or I want to be a YouTube star or something like that. But they don't realize, you know, all the jobs and possibilities that are right in their communities. So what we did was we went to some of our employers and we said, can you provide us with an employee that you think represents, you know, your future workforce, the skills that you're looking for, maybe a story that's relatable. And we had 4 companies, Paul AeroPower, Mettler Toledo, Polaris Connectors, and JL Video, which are all in target industries, come together, and we just interviewed an employee from each. And then we shared this with graduating seniors around June time, and they're coming out. We have about 100,000 people check it out. And the goal of it is to just, you know, spark a light bulb in somebody's head to what's around them, to make them want to explore more. And they also mentioned their education path. So, you know, they might go to PHSC or one of the other education partners that are mentioned in the video. So that's where this came from, and that was the goal of it. And so far it's been going great. We want to do more of them too.
At JL Video. My name is Rick Reese. I'm a plant manager at Polaris Connectors.
My name is Jade Goldman. I'm an associate designer with Paul.
My name is Brian, and I'm the applications team leader at Mettler Toledo. I remember my dad showing me movies and falling in love with the composition, lighting, audio, special effects, storyline, and the feel it gave you. I graduated from Montreal Technical College in 2018 with a degree in digital cinema. My professor mentioned that you will get out what you put into your passion. Since the time I was 13, I have worked in factories. I remember operating forklifts early on. Hard work and being hands-on has always been in my blood.
I went to school at Pasco Hernando State College and graduated with an AS in drafting and design technologies. In the fall of 2019, my teaching assistant mentioned that Paul was looking for interns, so I applied and was accepted.
In college, I did an internship with one of Mettler's product inspection brands in New York. Once Mettler made an announcement that they were building a facility in Florida, I was offered a full-time job and moved to Pasco County. In 2020, after freelancing for a few years, our CEO hired me full-time. I was really impressed at the high-end videos they were producing. I started out as a production coordinator and have worked my way up to the director of photography. I started out as an auto connector setup operator, then taking over as the floor manager, leading me to being a plant manager.
Now at Paul, I design filtration systems, parts and assemblies for the aircraft industry.
Mettler has an exceptional management staff, and they're focused on KPIs as well as supporting me in getting to where I want to go in the company.
If I were to give my younger self career advice, I would say stop thinking you're not qualified enough to take a leap in the industry. You have to put in the effort and believe in yourself.
I love the passion each staff brought into their projects. I love our team and what we do. I feel heard and nurtured in my career growth, and I'm really excited to see how far I can go.
And also, it's a grant from Duke Energy Foundation. We want to do more of these, so if you are a business owner in Pasco County, we'd love to talk to you.
I am.
Sorry.
But yeah, it is very fun. I think that's it for us. Any quick questions? Awesome.
Thank you, Turner and Sarah. And I will go quickly because I know I'm the one standing between you and lunch. And like Turner said, it is Chick-fil-A, so I will go quickly. First, thank you to the speakers. Amazing job, great information. Thank you to the chamber for putting this all together. Thank you to the attendees, taking time out of your day to come and learn a little bit about Zephyrhills and the surrounding area, what's going on and where we're going. One thing Zephyrhills, the city's working on is rebranding. If you heard today, just walk outside, you see Zephyrhills is changing. It is growing. So we are going through a rebranding exercise right now. We've always been known as the retirement community, and I don't think we're that anymore. But we really don't know what our story is. So that's our goal through this rebranding is to find out what our story is, and so that everybody can be on the same page as we put out our message. I just want to touch on a couple things from today. With all this growth, the city's working hard on improving our parks. You saw with Hercules Park, our sidewalks, the council has approved to invest $1 million into our sidewalks this next year. Transportation improvements, we hear it all the time from citizens. Transportation is horrible in Zephyrhills. We are working on it. You saw in Todd's presentation a lot of improvements on the different roads. We're working on County Road 54 with the county. We're partnering with them. Simons Road, Dairy Road, Wire Road and Pretty Pond, Cossack and Pretty Pond. Our airport, we didn't talk about the airport today, but over the past 4 years, we've received appropriations from the state of just about $16 million. $16 million invested into our local airport here. The state, that was a state appropriation. So thank you to Senator Burgess, Senator Simpson, Representative Maggard. The armory, they're building an armory. Zephyrhills was founded as a military community. The state appropriated $25 million to build an armory in. Can't really talk about the different units that may be stationed here, but it would be a great impact to our area. With all the appropriations the past few years, we've received just over $26 million of appropriations. That includes the transportation, the tennis center that you saw, the $25 million for the armory, another $1.5 million from the feds. So we're at just about $52 million over the past few years of appropriations and grant dollars. So it's not just our dollars spending, our general fund and things like that. We are trying to extend what we can do with the funds that we have. On top of that, we're receiving $8.6 million from ARPA that we're going to help. It's going to help pay for Hercules Park and some wastewater improvements. So I just wanted everyone to know that it's not. We are trying to stretch our dollars as far as we possibly can. Please go out and vote for a penny for Pasco. It is important to us. When I say us, the city, the county, and the school board. And thank you for everyone for being here. Go enjoy lunch.
Please do take a lunch, even if you don't want it. Maybe the person holding down the fort at your office does.